St. Peter's Square, urging an end to conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza. The newly elected pontiff, born Robert Francis Prevost in Chicago, is the first American to lead the Catholic Church. Iran and the United States concluded a fourth round of nuclear negotiations in Muscat, Oman. Talks focused on limiting Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanction relief.
Key issues include uranium enrichment levels and the dismantling of nuclear facilities.
Israeli airstrikes in Gaza resulted in the deaths of 15 civilians, including women and children, according to Gaza's health ministry. The strikes targeted areas in Khan Yunis and Gaza City.
The Israeli military stated it was targeting militants and attributed civilian casualties to Hamas.
The Trump administration is preparing to accept a luxury Boeing 747 jet from Qatar's royal family as a diplomatic gift.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
We got a cup of coffee in here, please.
Damn good coffee and hot.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Well, he's not his own mind's best friend.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
I don't know. You laugh at me. Better off laughing at me than Today's going to be another edition of Boomer Tech Doofus in the morning. Because the computers, they just don't love me. All right, Brush. Good morning, folks. We're off to another terrible technical week. Here it's a Monday morning. It is Monday.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs...
I think he did that to me on purpose. I think he did. I'm going to take this loop button off because we'll never know. He could have done it. I'm blaming it on GD because he doesn't like me either. The computers don't like me. It's Monday, May 12th, 2025. Hope you had a great weekend, Mother's Day weekend. I was thinking about Robert Johnson's Motherless Children, and Eric Clapton covered it in the 70s. What a cruel reminder that motherless children have a hard time when your mother is dead, Lord. Kids whose mother is dead don't need to be reminded. By hearing it, let's sing about it. I was thinking about it, though, because that song it was played on the radio yesterday. Like a Mother's Day, somebody thought that's a good idea to play that song on Mother's Day. My mind went back to third grade. Scott Bader, a friend of mine, we got off the bus, 3 p.m., and we see an ambulance out in front of his house. His mother had died of a heart attack. And Scott was never the same after that. I don't know. He's probably dead long ago. Because he's old like me. But motherless children, stop playing that song, especially on Mother's Day. Anyway, I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day, and I hope your mother isn't dead. If your mother's dead, father will do the best he can when your mother is dead. I'm sorry. I'm shot. You might think that being a painter is not a job. It's not work. And I could understand where you would get that perception. But let me tell you, when you have 3 paint parties in a day and you're going back and forth, cars loading in, loading out, setting up easels, blah, 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 it's work. And I'm shot. And my computers are shot. So yesterday I did 3 paint parties, and I'll talk about them in a minute. But Adobe and Apple, Adobe software, Apple computer products. For the last 5 years, every time Adobe updates Premiere and Photoshop and After Effects, Mac has a tough time because it wants to go to hardware rendering, set it at hardware rendering, which makes computers just shut off. Even if you're not using those programs, it just knows that it's been set to use a hardware acceleration, and it just shuts off. And then you have to unplug the computer for hours, replug it in, and hopefully you get time to make adjustments, go into the settings and say, don't use hardware acceleration and all that stuff. It's happened 5 times over the last 3 years or so, and it started happening again over the weekend, and it just drives me crazy. So this may shut down, but fortunately the other guys will be stuck hosting the show without me, and that's fine. Actually, in the first hour, we have Dead Air Dennis Mailer, who I'm looking forward to talking to. He's a comedian. In the second hour, Kirk Beck, who has been on this program before and put us all to sleep. He was on talking about civics, and what I remember is he was wearing a Yankee hat. He's in Houston, Texas, wearing a Yankee hat. And I asked him about Citizens United. This was right before the election, because we were talking about civics and how people don't trust the government. And I asked him about Citizens United, and his answer was, I'm not familiar with that organization. Now, this is a person who was an educator, educating people on government and how we can become more reliant on a government we can trust. And he never heard of Citizens United. Well, I'm not familiar with that organization. So the second hour, if my computer dies during that, I might try to switch over to the backup or the phone or whatever. But in the meantime, GD and Steven will be stuck with him, and I won't be crying. I won't shed a tear over that. But I'm going to bring up the Citizens United States. So yeah, I did 3 paint parties yesterday. The first 2 were pretty interesting, because I had one at 9 o'clock in the morning on Mother's Day, and 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was 2 hours away. So I had to really get up at the crack of dawn, and Dawn wasn't too happy about it, believe me. But so I drove the 2 hours to get there, set up, and the first family was, I think 10 people. Nobody follows instructions. Nobody follows instructions. Second party happened. It's about a half hour away from there, so I'm breaking down, rushing to get to that one. Beautiful outdoor thing, and it was like a block away from where I used to live with a girlfriend that was just one of the worst relationships of my life, and so I was kind of traumatized by being back in the neighborhood. Here's the deal: out of the first 2 parties, now welcome to a racist corner, bigot corner. I'll be happy to host, because you're the bigot. You. It's going to be you, not me. Me, you, not you. No, you, not me. First party was a Jewish family. Second party was a Colombian family. Now I'm going to tell you, I say that because both asked my heritage and my background on the whole thing. But and I wouldn't know. I mean, well, the Jewish family was wearing yarmulkes. That was kind of a giveaway. But one of the families tipped me very well, and the other family tried to bargain with me to do a paint party aside from the agency. You guess which family did what. Welcome to Bigot Corner. I'm your host, Harry the Bigot, and we'll take it from there. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to guess, because I want you to go down stereotype corner and go see what you can figure out. Stephen is trying to prove to the world that he has a real girlfriend, and it's desperate. Listen, if AI, I'm going to just say this: if AI existed when I was breaking up with girlfriends, wives, and stuff, I would come up with an AI girlfriend and post it all over social media. You'd think, oh, look, he's doing well. I get it. I get what Steven's trying to do there, but don't fall for it. Listen, he's Steven. Who the fuck wants Steven? Really? But we'll address that later because I have challenged him to bring his AI girlfriend onto the show. Now, according to him, she's working. Yeah, like AI works. So whatever. We're gonna get on with the show here. Let me play a commercial and then we'll say hello to Steven and challenge him to prove that he really does have a girlfriend. Because I don't think he does. Do you?
Mind Bloom is helping people achieve life-changing clinical and personal breakthroughs, alchemizing both the psychedelic medication, psychiatric care from psychiatric clinicians, coaches we call psychedelic guides, and a lot of content and meditations and programs into this really transformational experience that, because it's delivered at home, costs a lot less and is a lot more convenient for people to receive.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the room with me now is Steven. I'm a loser with no real girlfriend, but a fake AI girlfriend. The sitcom, that's his last name now. And GD, it's Pride Month and whatever, something headlining something June 14th with rainbow stuff behind him. Fenderson, good morning, GD.
Good morning, America. MindDogTV.com. Are you so depressed that you've ordered AI to bring you some stuff? And instead of bringing your girlfriend, AI arrived and took your shoelaces? You can thank that joke was inspired by our next guest, our first guest this morning, Mr. Maller. And I forgot his first name already.
Dennis. Joke and you don't even remember. Dennis
Maller. Yes, that was an homage to Dennis Maller and his shoestring joke, which I thought was very funny. So I just refashioned it and delivered it to Steven.
You stole it in front of his face.
Wow.
No, actually, I refashioned it behind his back, and I'm letting him know that I did it. So no, it was a joke I thought was very funny, and he put it on a video, so obviously it's out there. He's already done it.
Right. And anybody could steal it, so you're on it, Steven.
Yes, I just wanted him to know that I thought that was very funny, and so I refashioned it to use today in his I will not ever use it on stage unless it really gets a good laugh there.
Well, he's listening, and he wants to join in on Bigot Corner now. You guys got to guess who tipped me and who bargained? Colombian family, Jewish family.
The Colombians bargained, and the other people tipped.
All right, so Steven's on the record as being a bigot.
I think it was the third family.
Right, that's right. GD's right. GD wins because no, that's not true.
That's
the third family was a bunch of guineas like me.
So they didn't bargain; they threatened.
Exactly.
If you're ashamed of something to happen to your paint set, it's a nice paint set you got there. Be ashamed of something.
Yeah, it would be a shame if something happened to it. Let's not take a picture, okay? No pictures here. We don't want law enforcement.
It's a real nice paintbrush you got there. Be a real shame if it should be shoved up your ass or something.
It's a nice landscape you got there. Be ashamed of somebody. I don't know. Maybe slit your throat across it or something.
No, you're getting pretty good at that. Maybe a few more times watching The Godfather, you'll kind of start to adjust. But GD, this is a thing I've been trying to get you to do. I think for 2 years now. Is come to Long Island. Come to Long Island and do the typical Guinea. But as a black guy, go into like Italian delis and talk.
I'll do it. I'll
hey, that's it hanging. Hey, good guy. Hey,
how you doing? Let me. That's all I got.
I have The Sopranos on DVD. I will pick up some Sopranoisms, and I'll come up there and go into. You can follow me in, or you can go in first. And I'll walk in and do my little. I'll order something from maybe like a little deli or something, and I'll order like a guinea.
Yeah.
Does your mother sew? Get her to sew this.
I'll ask for something. And I'll say, put some gravy on it.
Yeah.
Lots extra gravy.
Oh. Well, we're gonna But I don't know. I think
it must be a Pride Month thing.
Because I know Long Island Guineas. They don't. They would be like, take them. Who is? What are you wearing a disguise? You with that the latest Halloween costume you got on there? What happened? I don't know.
I'll do this. I'll wipe my face and I'll have Brown wipe off. And I'll be like, must be hot out today. Hey, it's hot.
I started a new YouTube channel called Weed World, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's based. YouTube let me get away with it because I said it would be cannabis education, but it's going to be goofy Beavis and Butthead stuff.
Yeah, you're going to educate people on how much this stuff will fuck you up.
I want to go talk to the bud tenders in Weed World and kind of do interviews with them, and maybe the owners of these shops and all that kind of stuff.
We'll give you a discount.
Is the place called Weed World?
No, I call it Weed World.
Okay.
It's just a Poospatuck reservation, but they used to be like years ago. Everybody went there for cigarettes, but then when New York State legalized weed, they jumped on it big time, and so they all have the like neon signs, big pot leaves out in front. It's just it's Weed World. Sooner or later,
I was just making sure that you weren't going to get in trouble for taking the name, but now that you gotta own like
I got a trademark Weed World. Weed World. Yeah. So I want to do that and maybe get some people to come down there. I would be out busking painting today, except I can't go set up and break down one more time. It's like, what a friggin' nightmare that is. Pouring paint out and setting up easels and canvases for everybody and brushes and all that stuff. Getting the water, blah, 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 and then breaking it all down, putting it back in the car, going rushing to another place. It's just like, I got home. It was like I did a 16-hour gig with the band, and without roadies. That's what I felt like. Anyway, you ready to meet Dead Air Dennis Miller? And maybe
sure. We've already heard some of his material. No, we might as well
we don't need him.
We might as well meet him.
Yeah. Dead Air Dennis Miller is a Baltimore-born, almost like GD. He was in Baltimore. Were you Baltimore-born?
I was Baltimore-born.
Oh, so he is just like GD. But he's Brooklyn-based, not like GD. Comedian.
No, my base is a little brown round ass.
Writer and podcaster who has been heard on Sirius XM and radio stations across the country. Dennis has been featured in comedy festivals internationally, is the comedy editor for Dig Boston. I dig Boston. And the host of Big Comedy Network podcast. He's here now, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello to Dennis, Dead Air Dennis Miller. I don't know why I want to put the dead air second. I want to say dead air.
Hi, what's up, guys?
How are you?
Oh, it's great. The thievery is the most sincerest form of flattery. Thank you, guys.
All right. What else can we steal from you? That microphone looks nice.
That's right. I already sold this from iHeartRadio when they fired me back in 2018.
It says here in your bio something about it says where is it? He's funny, abrasively secret, abrasively social, and allergy free since 1981. Were you all of those things since 1981, or just allergy free since 1981?
Sure. Well, all of them have been since 81, especially the allergy free part. That's the best part.
Now what's that? Were you a child? Were you an adult in 1981?
No, I've been I don't have any allergies. In my early days of comedy, I used to do a joke about how I'm short, I'm fat, I'm bald, I have glasses. I offer nothing to the gene pool when it comes to procreating with women. And the only beneficial thing I have is I don't have any allergies. Wow. So if a woman wanted to have kids with me, at least their kid won't have hay fever because of my genes.
Well, you make me feel bad about myself because I have tons of allergies.
No, don't worry. Your kid will be born with, if I have kids with anybody, they're going to be born with depression and a narcissism complex, but no hay fever.
Well, right. Being an allergy sufferer, I'd rather be depressed and have allergies. But I'm miserable. I am miserable 13 months a year.
Can you say that in a Guinea accent?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm miserable here. I'm sneezing all over the place.
All right, relax.
I got
Stugatz coming out my nose all over the place. Oh,
Yeah, Boston gets their share of my type of people up there. People,
right? We got the North End up here, where the North End, home to 105 Italian restaurants, pastry shops, and eateries.
Wow, you counted them all. Have you eaten at all?
I have not, and that's why I've lost 80 pounds in the past years, because I stopped eating all the Italian food.
Congrats, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I stopped with actually. When you lose a bunch of weight, people get they all want to know, is like, what's your secret? What's your secret? Nobody can be just like understand
it's cancer. It's cancer.
Right? Well, I tell them I stopped taking my antidepressants. So yeah, no, I'm lighter. My dick works again, and I've never felt worse about it.
Wow, good for
there you. Go. That's how that's life right there.
Yeah, my sister lost a bunch of weight, and they said, "Cookie, you look great. How'd you lose all the weight?" And she goes, "Pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
I got like a month to live."
That'll do it. No,
no, my current goal weight is how much weight my ceiling fan can support.
Are you doing a live radio show now? I know you're doing podcasting. You're a host of the big what is it? Big.
So what do you really do? It's a podcast where I host, where I talk to artists and entertainers about their day jobs, talking about the stuff we have to do during the day to support what we want to do at night.
Does everybody still have a day job?
I talk to a lot of comedians that still have day jobs. Yep. And I'm fortunate enough to talk to a bunch of people that are, their day job is the art or entertainment they do. Like I've talked to other comedians and musicians and stuff. One of my favorite episodes is I talked to a band from the Boston area here called the Dirty Dotties, where almost everybody in the band was like 3 out of 5 of the members of the band were music teachers. So like they just taught in different methods. Like one was taught at home. One of them taught at a conservatory school. The other one taught at a public school. And then the fourth one, he taught music theory out of his house. One of the other members of the band, their trombone player, was a legitimate lab coat scientist, right? Like works at, beakers and all kinds of chemicals and stuff. And then the last member of the band, she is a musical therapist, which means she goes into like hospital rooms with her guitar. And she, instead of giving people sedatives, she plays music on her guitar to help control the heart rate and anxieties of people. Dude, that sounds like voodoo right there, if you ask me. Like that's witchcraft. She has a degree in musical witchcraft, if you ask me.
Yeah,
bring in. She goes in. The guy goes, "Play Free Bird."
We get a band. Here's a 3-piece band I'm thinking of: a sitar, a banjo, and a bagpipe.
On purpose?
I love sitar. Sitar, but the other two instruments.
I like bagpipes personally, but I don't know if I'd like any of those together.
No,
an overweight guy with red hair loves bagpipes. Shocking.
I know, right?
I love sitar. Maybe if you replace the sitar with an accordion
or the radio.
The bagpipes may sound bad, but women love a bagpipe player because they love guys that can blow and finger at the same time
and wear their skirt. So
hey, it's 2025, man. That's a kink nowadays. All right.
All right.
What does a good Scotsman wear under their kilt? What's the old
fucking
adage?
nothing.
They, wear shoes and socks.
Yep.
Well, I get it. I'm wrong about everything again. It's the way it is. But I'm used to being wrong. So bagpipes are cool. I did not know that. But so
Jonathan Davis is who made them temporarily cool long enough to make them a manly thing.
He's the lead singer of a metal band called Korn.
Oh. That's why I never heard of him. I can't take metal anymore. There was a day when I was, but when you're old, I think you have to mandatorily give it up by law. You just can't listen to metal anymore.
Yeah,
really weird.
You slowly slip into a coffin to yacht rock. It's fine.
You know what? I'm doing a senior center tomorrow. I'll find out how many of them.
To rot rock.
Yeah, I'm gonna say how about some Slipknot while we do our little painting show. How about I throw on some Slipknot for you and see how it goes?
Well, Jonathan Davis is 54 years old, so I think he's approaching the age where he might have to be giving up metal if we're following your rules.
Yeah. I think so. Well,
actually, Corey Taylor is also 50 of Slipknot.
Yeah, 55 is the age when you're officially a senior citizen.
Well, here's the thing. I think Clown in Slipknot is like 60.
Oh, ancient.
Christopher Lee, famous actor Christopher Lee from Dracula and the Lord of the Rings movies. He was in a metal band and he released a metal album every year up until his death.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So apparently I'm wrong about that too. So rolling along with being wrong about everything.
Now we're just getting to the time where, punk and metal is not dead. It's just balding and goes to bed at a reasonable hour.
And catches the dinner specials at the restaurant.
Yeah, the early bird
music
special.
is timeless. Like, look, I'm from Baltimore City. You know how many octogenarians I've seen just rocking out to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg?
I believe that.
Music is timeless.
Yeah. So yesterday I was doing paint parties. I mentioned that I do, music and stuff, and they wanted, while paint is drying, can you sing us a song? Like, I'm not sure where to go here because I had a Jewish family in the morning, a Colombian family right after them, and then an Italian family after that. And it's like, what do you play for though?
This is what you do, Matt. You get a blank canvas, you get 2 brushes, and you get a palette with colors, and you start doing drums. You bound on a palette get some paint, and then you get to the canvas, and then you go back to get more paint on the palette, then you go back to playing on the canvas like this.
Yeah.
And that's what you teach all the little kids how to.
I always bring my guitar with me just in case. It's while the stuff is drying, because there's dry time. Yeah, it was acrylics. You have to wait. It's not going to blend like oil.
You don't bring a hair dryer?
No.
No,
why would you have a hair dryer? I'm sorry.
Why would I have a hair dryer?
You come up with a playlist, for yesterday. You have in the morning, you play Fiddler on the Roof, in the middle, salsa music, and then at the end, Peruvian pan flutes.
That's exactly where I would go with that, except, I was planning on, now this might come off as a problem, but I'm planning on calling the agency and saying, give me a heads up so I could wear a yarmulke if I know I'm playing for a Jewish fan, because I feel.
What would you attach it to?
Me. What
would you attach it to? Don't they stick that
double-sided tape?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a
Wait.
gig.
Why do you feel like you have to wear a yarmulke if you're doing a Jewish gig?
Because they all are, and now I feel excluded. Now they did ask me my heritage, and even though I'm a mutt, I say I leave out the German part when they're Jewish. I say I'm Italian and Irish. I don't mention the Jewish part. Then I get to the Colombian family, and again they ask me my heritage. Like what's with the test here? And I said I'm a mutt. I'm Italian, Irish, and German. But my wife is. She's English and Irish, whatever, but she's also a little bit Colombian by injection. And this old woman said, she was married before. Like she understood exactly what it was. The Guidos didn't need any. Look, he's here. Yeah, hey, Bubba.
They tried to feed you as soon as you walk into the door. Hey, sit down, mind you.
The Jewish family tried to feed me the minute I walked in the door too. But I was like, I don't know, Jewish food? No. Bagels maybe, but keep the lox and all cream cheese and whatever. Welcome to Bigot Corner, Dennis. Are you?
Oh no, way! I was in the room listening to the bigotry. It's fine.
Well,
I live in Boston, where I live in New England, where it's basically just the South with a different accent.
Wow.
My wife is from Maine, and when she used to joke to me, not joke me, she used to say to me, "We don't have racism. We don't have racism in Maine." I said, "You do. I said just that there's only 12 blacks. Right? There's only 12 blacks in Maine, and they are, they live in Lewistown. That's it, Lewistown.
Yeah.
You don't have.
It's really weird being racist against a bunch of races that you have never met in your entire life. Like, do you know what the problem with Mexicans is? Unless you're going to say invisible, no, because you've also never met any.
I know. If you want to be racist for the right reasons, come live in Indiana, where you can be surrounded by the Amish and Mexicans.
Wait, you got Amish?
Dude, I'm surrounded by Amish.
They don't have real Amish. They don't have real Amish people.
Yes, we do. We have old order. We have old order Amish. We have Pennsylvania Dutch Amish, and then we have Mennonite.
All right, we have to make this.
Mennonites are not Amish. They're Amish light.
Yeah, they're Amish diet Amish.
Yeah,
it's a religion, not a race, right? Amish.
It's
a culturalization because
it's a culture. It's a culture that is.
They started as the Dutch, like they're Dutch immigrants. and they moved to this country from
inbreeding was a thing at one
Holland.
point that was an issue.
Look at Dennis.
They do try.
He's like the doctor.
They do try to keep it
ethnicity.
The only thing I know is I've never seen a black Amish, not even by marriage.
No. The
closest thing to a black Amish I've seen is the horses that they have.
Yeah, the reason there's no black Amish is because they work too much.
Right. Okay, now that we've offended just about everybody.
No, look, the Amish will never hear this.
All right. That's a good point. I didn't consider that. So Boston, how long?
Some Amish is going to find this podcast on his Hank Ventrola, his Hank.
Well, no, there's going to be. There's going to be some asshole.
Rumspringer. There was a Rumspringer when they go out and.
Yeah, I was going to say there's going to be some asshole kid on Rumspringer that's going to find it and come into my store, and because we sell to Amish kids on Rumspringer all the time. They'll come in and drop $2,000 on phones and speakers. And
be careful.
Is it Rumspringer when they start fighting on the Jerry Springer show? Isn't that what Rumspringer is?
No, that's generally after Jedediah sleeps with Zachariah's wife.
Steven, you got to be careful because every time you open your mouth, your AI girlfriend thinks about leaving you.
She's not AI though. She's super real.
Yeah.
Super real, not regular real. Like the rest of us have like regular real people and all that. She's super real.
Yeah. Dennis, how long you been up in Boston?
I've lived here since this. I just celebrated, if we want to call it celebration, 12 years here living in Boston. In February, I moved here 2013, the day before the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So I watched the Super Bowl from Boston, and then the next day watched all the partying in the streets in front of my apartment back in Baltimore City.
But so now you moved. Now Steven's generation might not appreciate this, but Boston is the king of comedy towns. It is. You don't get and maybe you this because I've been wrong so far on everything in the show. But as a comedian, it's like. I'm going to go be the smallest fish in the biggest pond possible. Now, was that a consideration? The comedy scene is why you went up there?
The reason I moved to Boston, and Boston has a great heritage of very funny, talented comedians throughout the years. You had Jay Leno, Bill Burr, Dennis Leary, Paula Poundstone, Stephen Wright, Bobcat Goldthwait, Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob, Barry Crimmins, Eliza Schlesinger, Sam Jay, who's, if you know who she has a Netflix special now. She's a writer for Saturday Night Live. All these comedians and very many other talented people started here in the Boston area. And there's still a great amount of talent here in the Boston, New England area, especially in the Boston area. And knowing the heritage, the comedy heritage of Boston was one of the reasons why I moved, but also because I needed at the time, I wanted to live in a city that was what I thought a city. Like I grew up in Baltimore. I'm used to the urban lifestyle. I wanted to live in a real city, somewhere that's walkable, that has a nightlife, that has life, has a transit system, because I was up and down with cars at the time. Sometimes the cars work, sometimes they didn't. So I knew I needed to live in a city with a transit system, and a job in radio opened up here, and it was a guaranteed job. It was more money. It was a new start for me. So that's what brought me to Boston. And I will say that I came to Boston. I had to work really hard to get up to the level of the comedians around me.
Wow.
I had started in Baltimore for a couple of years, and I had a very dirty, raunchy 5-minute set that worked in Baltimore. And as soon as I uttered those words up here in Boston,
really,
it did not fly.
They want clean comedy.
They don't want clean comedy. They just don't like overly raunchy. And it also depends on what circles you're in. So there's different circles of comedy, and there's different audiences. And it took me a good 10 months of just bombing straight hard to find my new voice, because I never liked that 5-minute set anyway. I thought it was raunchy and dirty and hacky. And it worked, but it was, not great. It worked. I felt cheap every time I did the jokes. Right. Yeah. So I was looking for a new start anyway. And I did the set twice and I wanted to write new material. So now, and I went through 10 months of trying to find out who I am, what my voice is, what I wanted to be. And you know what? I don't mind doing clean comedy. I like doing clean comedy. I do now. My day job is I am a tour guide, a comedic tour guide for the city of Boston. I drive around the city and I give 80-minute comedy comedic historic tours of Boston, and they have to be clean because we have kids. I sneak a couple of little, sly, Simpsons, Bugs Bunny-esque double entendres in there every once in a while, but it is an 80-minute clean show for kids of all ages, adults of all ages, and I enjoy it. I
would
love
love
the
to
jokes
come
I'm
up
doing.
and film you a day on the day job, because that's first of all, I would love to take that tour, but I would also love to. I think, have you ever thought about, because that could go viral? That you're talking about a clip that could get some serious monetization on it. Is a comedian.
Oh, don't think I haven't thought about it, but the company doesn't like us putting our tours on social media. So if someone else films my tour and puts it on
so
their
if I
YouTube
come on
account,
there as a customer and just like I'm going to come on as a customer taking the tour and just film it and then use
they won't
without your
stop anybody
permission
from filming
wink,
my
wink.
tour. But if I put clips from my tour up, they're like, "No, you can't do that." They're very
good, because if
company
they
is
were
very
going to give
gun-shy.
us, if they were going to give them too much griff, I was going to say, you could bring me. I'll pretend to be special needs, and I'll wear a camera. I'll just be like, and you can.
Do you
pretend to be
You
special
can just
needs?
blatantly film it. They don't care. Like you blatantly film it. Like it's like I understand their point. They're very gun shy when it comes to social media because this company's been around 31 years. It's the second oldest. It's the Boston Duck Tours. I'll just say it. And then somebody from work's going to hear this and they're going to go complain again that I talked about work. The company, understandably, is very gun shy about social media because they're the second oldest company in the world. We're the face of duck boats in the world. Like when people think of duck boats, they think of Boston Duck Tours. We're the largest fleet. When these sports teams here win, they are the parade vehicles, right? When the Celtics won last year, they became the cue up the duck boats became the meme for every Celtics win. Every time they won a game, it's like, cue the duck boats, get the duck boats ready for the parade, kid. Right. And so like Sam Adams right now is selling shirts with our company image on it as promotion for their products in conjunction with the Celtics. Like it's a very iconic company. And I get to understand where they've had a history of people in the business where, to drive a duck boat, you have to have a CDL license. You need a captain's license from the Coast Guard. So these traditionally people that have these licenses tend to be very gruff, aggressive, working class, blue collar kind of people. And sometimes blue collar working class people don't have the most progressive views and they are open about it on social media. So sometimes in past, I'm sure they've had somebody come on and say, why do all these certain ethnicities really bad at tipping? Or why are they always talking their languages and not speaking English? And they've probably had things like that in the past, and they are worried that people are going to continue that perpetuation and make the company look bad. But what they don't understand is certain people like me who have been in the media and entertainment, and like, I'm not a blue collar guy. I've worked in entertainment my entire life. I worked for iHeartRadio for 15 years. I've worked in podcasting and radio combined for over 20 years. I've worked in entertainment and behind the scenes and in front of the scenes for over 30 years now. I'm 44 years old. I'm an adult. I understand what I can and cannot put out on social media. And my personal accounts that are, stand-up based and personal based, and my account I created for my character for tours are two different people. There's a crossover, but there's not going to be the exact same content. Things I'm going to say on my personal social media, I'm not going to say under my character social media because I know better than to do that.
Right.
I want the focus of my character social media to be putting the company in the best light, putting me in the best light, highlighting the fun that my guests have. Like I just talked about this story yesterday on tour, and it's a story I never really tell on tour, but for some reason I was inspired. City of Boston is home to the oldest marathon that's been the oldest annually ran marathon, the Boston Marathon. And a couple months back, I had a young lady on my tour, and she was like, "Oh, I ran the Boston Marathon." I went, "Oh, cool. What year did you run the marathon?" And she goes, "I ran the worst year." It's like, "Oh, 2013 when the Boston Marathon bombing happened. I'm so sorry. I hope you weren't hurt or anything." She goes, "No, I ran in 2018 when it was rainy and cold."
Well, I ran in 1776 when this guy on a horse kept coming. British Dakota, like, what the hell are you? But
fun fact: Paul Revere never yelled, "The Redcoats are coming."
I know.
Yeah. No, he yelled nothing because he was on a secret mission, and yelling defeats the purpose of secrets.
Right.
Wasn't that why he had the lantern though? The lantern was the signal, right?
If we want to go to the history of Paul Revere, I'll tell you. Yeah. So I'll do it very briefly. The lanterns were actually hung in the steeple of the Old North Church. The Old North Church is in the north end of Boston, home to 105 Italian restaurants, like I talked about. And the reason they did it, Newman, who was the groundskeeper there. By the way, that guy named Newman had a neighbor named Jerry he wasn't fond of. So hung the lanterns in the steeple. One, if the British were going to march through the city of Boston to the city of Lexington, or two, if they were going to cross the Charles River in boats. And they were to signal not Paul Revere, but the 30 other riders that were waiting across the Charles River on the other side in the city of Charlestown, who went throughout all the colonies. Paul Revere already knew which direction the British were going to march. He signaled Newman. Newman put up the lanterns. Paul Revere had two friends row him across the Boston Harbor to Charlestown, where he borrowed a horse and then ran to Lexington to warn John Hancock and Sam Adams that the British were coming, marching out of Boston to go arrest them for treason.
It's a shame how Newman went from being Paul Newman cool to hello Newman.
Right? He went from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to a mailman driving a truck trying to get 5 cents for every bottle pack.
So Dennis, I had a question about an hour ago.
No, you can't steal more jokes.
So the duck boats that are in Baltimore, they're affiliated with the same duck boat company?
So there are many duck boat companies all around the world, but they are not affiliated with you. All the companies are their own individual companies. Right now, the oldest company in the world is the Wisconsin Dells, and they've been running for 41 years. Boston Duck Doors, 31 years. Baltimore used to have a duck boat company. DC used to be on Branson, Seattle, Tampa, Pittsburgh. There's one currently operating right now in Austin, Texas. I hear there's one in Alaska. There's one running in Portland, Maine. There's one in Ireland, in Dublin. They do a Viking theme. There's one I found out recently in Portugal and Singapore. So yeah, there used to be one in Australia, London. They get around. And it's been said that certain people have a negative image of it because of, let's be honest, accidents have happened. Not in our company. With the Boston Duck Doors has never had a life-losing crash or a life-losing incident in the water in the Charles River. It has never happened to them. Super Duck Tours. Super Duck Tours. There was another duck boat company in Boston at the same time called Super Duck Tours. They would go in the Boston Harbor. They also never had an incident. There's a lot of companies that never had incidents, but the few that have had incidents put a black eye on the company and the tours itself. And it's because the companies the companies that had those accidents, those incidents did not take safety seriously. And it makes all the companies that have that do take safety very seriously look bad. Like there was one that sank and flipped over and lost a bunch of lives. And it's because they were out in the water in dangerous conditions that they weren't supposed to be. They didn't have the, many things of safety that we have implemented, like roofs that can open up in case of an emergency to be used as emergency egress, windshields that go down. All our windows in the Boston Duck Tours are Velcro attached, so we can be safe from, we can go during the rain and cold, but in case of emergency, they push right open if they need to be used in an emergency egress. And luckily in 31 years, we never had to use them as an emergency egress. We were set up and prepared and safe. We do safety drills all year long to make sure that we're always on top of the utmost quality safety standards. And in fact, last year, Boston Duck Doors saved the 3-year-old child that fell into the Charles River from the city of Cambridge. He jumped over a fence into the river. The father jumped in after him at about 8:30 in the morning, which we weren't even running. The only reason our duck boats were out in the morning is we were actually doing safety practice drills that morning. And a duck boat happened to come along, and this guy and his 3-year-old kid were drowning, and we're able to save them. And they got a commendment from the Coast Guard for it. And it made a lot of headlines and news and stuff, but that completely gets immediately washed away when you start thinking about the incidents that other companies that don't take safety seriously have put a blemish on us. And
how long did it take Trump to take credit for that?
Right. Well, I don't even think Right
So, Matt, Matt, I just want you to know I am not going to tell Elizabeth that you decided that you wanted to film or record Dennis's tour and not her tour. I'm not going to.
I did not know Elizabeth did one.
No, I'm not. I just told you I'm not going to tell her, so you can have whatever alibi you want.
I didn't know she did one.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is news to me. I would love to go to a film her tour as well.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm just saying.
But she's not in Boston, right? So
no, she's in D.C. I'm not going to tell. I just said I'm not going to tell. Don't make a big deal out of it. No one's going to know.
No, I think she already knows, guys. I think she's listening now, and she hates me now because of that. But I did not know she did.
I talked to her yesterday. She was hitting you already, but now but I didn't tell her that. That's why I wasn't going to tell her because
I'm actually shouting that this is not put down that anybody has a day job. I don't think there's any shame in having a day job. You have to. A lot of people have to have day jobs.
Look, I went for a year and a half being a full-time entertainer. After iHeartRadio decided they did not need me anymore in the radio business. I thought this was a sign from the gods to show me that I needed to be a full-time entertainer at this moment. I was making decent money, doing some acting gigs, doing some private comedy gigs. I was, a paid writer for a newspaper. I was getting some sponsorships for the podcast and everything. And I was like, now's my chance to make this because I'm not getting any younger. And so I went for almost a year and a half as a full-time entertainer doing comedy, writing, stand-up, acting. I dove into doing more acting jobs. I did a little bit of freelance podcasting work, recording other people's shows and producing, and I did some live sound work. And I put a really good, decent income together for that year and a half. And then the pandemic hit, and I lost all of that.
Right.
And what the worst part is while everyone else was getting paid unemployment and making more money, I was making less money because it was harder to prove my income because of all the freelance work that I was doing and a lot of the a lot of the work that I was getting paid cash under the table to doing as well. All of it went away. And I had to go back to the world of day jobs. I worked AV tech for a couple of companies for a while because that's a skill set that I have. I'm fortunate that my backup is to be able to do live sound, live entertainment, and tech and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I did a lot of consulting during the pandemic of getting people on streaming and showing how to use Zoom and transfer their stuff over to doing virtual online stuff. And I made decent money doing that, but it really took a hard hit to the income. And when my friends who are also comedians work for the same company, and they've been talking me into this since 2015, trying to get me to do it. And I didn't want to do it because I looked negatively on it. I was like, oh, I don't want to do that hacky tourist comedy, but I got to talk with a fake Boston accent stuff.
I would be fired in like 20 minutes without it.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do it for the longest time. And I decided, hey, I'm not getting any younger. The job I'm doing AV tech for a hotel company is rough on my body. I'm 42 years old at the time or whatever it was, 41, 42. I'm getting too old to tape down mic cables. And one day I'm going to tape down my last mic cable and not be able to get off the floor. So let me take this. Worst case scenario, I do this job for a year. I hate it. And I go back to doing tech jobs, or I go find something else to do. And I fell in love with the job. I really do love. And I get to do 3 to 5 80-minute comedy shows a day through the city of Boston.
The company takes the
comedy so seriously. Yeah, I'm still in show business. Like the company takes the comedy very seriously in that they have a rule of it's got to be 75% history, 25% comedy. And the two trainers, bless their hearts, Plucky and Tad, are great, smart, intelligent guys that want you to succeed. And they've done the business for a long time, and they want people to like you. They want people to enjoy both your show and you. They want the city of Boston is the star of the show. The duck boats are the co-star, and you're number 3 on the call sheet.
I think
they
for
want
job
you to
preservation, you need to stop right now because there's a bunch of hack comedians who are packing their bags thinking they're going to move to Boston.
I was just thinking the same fucking thing.
And they won't get into it. They can go work for the Schmucks Tour of Boston. They'll take you hack comedians. You can go to the Schmuck Tours of Boston, which is our new competitive company in town, or you can go to the Massholes Boston Tour and go there's another company in town. I think they folded called the Massholes of Boston Tours. And it was very bad. It was, they forced everybody to do the same shtick which was two narrators at the same time on a party bus with like a stripper pole. And what they would do, every tour, you and the other person have to pretend to be siblings, and you have to talk in fake Boston accents. And I was like, yeah, that's not what I want to do. Thank God that the Boston Duck Tours, they want to highlight what you love most. My character is a ukulele playing punk rocker, right? Yeah, we all create these weird sympathetic characters. I call them Michael Scott characters, where they're like, the hubris of them is so big that they're only just set up to fail, and that they have, they love these broad sympathetic characters. Like one of my friends who started the same year I did. She's an alien trapped in town because her spaceship broke down and she doesn't know how to fix it. One of the other tour guides is Private Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up on a yellow submarine. Maybe you've heard of his father, Doctor
Sergeant.
But he's a whole Beatles themed character because he loves Beatles. I love punk rock. I get to talk about Boston's punk rock history. I get to talk about punk. I get to play The Clash on tour, right, as a gag and take people to the city of Boston. And you know what? Punk rock's not huge into people's mind, but the people who get the punk rock references. I had a 8-year-old girl on my tour the other day that came off the tour and was like, Rancid is my favorite band. I was like, what? She was like, I've met Lars Fredriksson and I've seen him in his solo shows. And the mom's like, yeah, she loves the band Rancid. I'm like, the Bay Area punk band Rancid that is responsible for the big, huge punk rock revival of the mid 1990s. This little girl loves them. And you know what? That's awesome. When I get to connect with people, I give out parody punk rock album cover stickers, right? And if you don't know the parody reference, it's still kind of funny because it's a duck themed cute little thing that says, oh, it's my album cover. But meanwhile, it's The Clash, but instead of it's Paul Simonian smashing his bass, it's a duck smashing its bass guitar.
Wow.
I have a parody cover of Bad Religion's Suffer album. But it has a duck, a punk rock duck with a battle jacket on flames, and the record's called Feather instead of Suffer. I have Bad Brains parody of Bad Brains band in DC called Band in Boston, and it's got a reggae rubber ducky being struck by lightning. I get to give these things out and people enjoy them, and then the people who know what they are enjoy it 10 times more, and I get to see that look of joy in their faces, and I hopefully not only make people who come on my tours enjoy the city of Boston and learn things that they didn't know they were going to learn. Because I think there's a great way to teach people is through humor. You're more likely to remember a joke than you're going to remember a fact. And if that fact is a joke, if I hide the fact, the history in a joke, you're more likely to remember it. And I don't care about history, bro. Let me not, I am not a historian. I learned enough history to do my job, and that's it.
A joke or a song. But I was going to comment on that earlier, that you do sound like a historian, and I'm sure you, unlike the historian we're going to have on in an hour or two, you probably have heard of Citizens United. But
wait, what?
What? You do sound like a bit of a history professor or something. Like,
I mean, I had to learn history to do the job, and you do. I will say, I found. I get to talk about the things of history that I like. Like the company has a list of these are the things you have to mention. No qualms about it. You have to mention the TD Garden Arena. You have to mention the Bunker Hill Monument. You have to mention our other duck stops, and you have to mention Trinity Church and these things that are standards that we have to talk about, and that's fine. But then everything else, I get to talk about the things that I like.
It's funny because if you were to learn the history in school, the same history in school, and took a test, if you got a C, you'd pass. But in your job, you can't get a C. You have to get a 100. You have to get.
There's people that love history, and they come. I mean, Boston has a lot of history throughout the Revolutionary War, the creation of this country. Like the Freedom Trail is here, and it's a 3.5-mile walk through the city of Boston, seeing what they call
2.5 miles if you're actually running for freedom. It's a
3.5-mile walk, seeing 16 of the most historic sites in Americans' creation.
Yeah.
Yes, the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth, which is about an hour south of Boston. But the next groups of people that landed here end up landing in Boston. Like Boston has some of the old, just like Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a huge amount of history to the creation of America. When you look through most of the inventions that throughout the 1800s. Most of the things that were invented first were invested in Boston and Philly most of the time. New York also has a huge history as well, just as much as DC. Baltimore has a great history as well, but it's less significant. It's still a huge pivotal part of America's creation, pinnacle part of America's creation.
I love when
it's
you drive
overshadowed by so much of Boston and Philly and DC, and Florida has a wonderful amount of history too. When you're talking about the colonization of the United States and the colonies here, like there's a huge, great amount of history in Florida between the Spanish and the French. Fort Caroline has a wonderful story. There's Fort Casa de Leon in I want to say Jacksonville, that has a story about the English invading a Spanish fort, killing all the people, taking it over, and then 3 years later, the French coming back and taking it back from the English and driving the English out of it. Like there's so much good, fun history that you can learn if you're open-minded to it. And I was not open-minded. This job opened my brain up, opened my mind up, opened my eyes up. Like the off season, we have a 3-month, 4-month off season, and I got to drive cross country this winter from December to March. I drove from Boston to Key West to Santa Monica and back. I spent 3 months on the road.
I'm jealous.
Learning about the country. Yeah, dude, it was me and a Kia Soul with my dog. It was absolutely great. And I specifically
did your dog do some of the driving, or was it all you?
No, she did a lot of panting and drooling because I drive like an idiot. I drive too fast. She was
because you're from the East Coast, and that's what we do on the East Coast.
Exactly.
So when you're driving and her head was sticking out the window, which place drove her the mad? It's like, well, I love the smell. You gotta let me out here, right here.
She's actually my dog, who is named Sister, is such a sweetie pea. She was born and raised on the streets, and she hates all the modern conveniences of the world. She does not sleep in the bed. She does not climb on the furniture. She hates the car. She does not stick her head out the window. If I roll the window down first, she's like, ew, close it, stop it. She's such a great, wonderful dog, but she has so many weird quirks. Like the other day, she actually walked up and started to pee on a fire hydrant, and I looked at her and went, stop being so cliche.
I want to bore the shit out of the audience here and talk about something that I'm interested in, and it's going to make a lot of people tune out. Yesterday, radio. Yesterday when I was doing my paint shows, I mentioned that I do some radio stuff, and I said, people, you don't want to listen to me. I'm very vulgar and racist and terrible. I'm a terrible person. You don't want to listen to me. But I asked how many people actually, in 3 different parties, I asked how many people listen to the radio. One guy said he still listens to the radio. So I think the future of radio, because you talked about working in radio, I think the future of radio is gone. Those paying positions have now been like, it's like comedy. We know we can get people to work for free or for peanuts, and they can't make a living out of it. They're going to have a side job. I think radio is dead. Talk radio is definitely the one guy that listened to radio, listened to AM talk radio, obviously right-wing dominated stuff. But so what's your take on, because it seems like Sirius and satellite, Sirius XM is dead too. Podcasting also, there's 1 billion people in podcasting, like comedy. Nobody's making any money. Where does this all lead to as far as broadcasters, people like you who, love the art of being on radio? Is there a future in it?
I don't think terrestrial radio is ever going to go away just because it's free. The problem what we have, and I honestly thought this problem would have been fixed by now, but it's not. My personal opinion is radio is dying because of the commoditization of radio.
Right.
When deregulation came, when they started deregulating the ability to limit federally how many radio stations you can own, all that did was cause the big corporations to buy up all the stations, and then they homogenized radio because that's what they thought people wanted. iHeartRadio, CBS, Radio One, all these big companies became TGI Fridays of radio.
Right.
Cookie cutter stations throughout the country. No matter where you go, it sounds like the radio station from home. And they didn't realize, maybe that was a good idea in the late 90s, but they did not have the foresight to see what was going to happen in the world with internet and podcasting, all of that. And they even shunned that technology for a while. Like I remember pitching a podcast to iHeartRadio as a company, and they're like, "Yeah, that's never going to last." And now they're buying up every single celebrity's free time to put out podcasts,
right?
Because they also think that people want celebrities. They want to listen to celebrities talk. And I mean, look at was it Thoughtless? No, the Jason Bateman and the Smartless guys. Yeah.
Right.
They've been bought and sold twice for, 7-figure sums twice over.
Yeah.
And it's because it's just a bunch of celebrities that bring their celebrity friends on to talk. Amy Poehler has a podcast now where it's just her talking to, and like the tagline for it is just her talking to her famous friends. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they paid millions of dollars for the rights to that as well. So what radio has that nobody else has is they had individualization. They had the ability to hit you where you live, hire local, talk about local, advertise local.
Right.
And they lost all that.
Right.
Because they were making great big money from McDonald's, who had national campaigns on radio stations for years. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah.
That we were charging McDonald's just to play that little tune in between other commercials.
Right.
You would have a commercial, and then it would just be like ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba, and then
and all of a sudden you want a bad cheeseburger.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, we did all that. And what we did is we got rid of all the localization. We got homogenized. And I thought we would have ended deregulation by now. And what would have had it done, these big corporations would have sold off the radio stations. You would have gone back to mom and pop radio stations. You would have gone back to small, locally owned individual radio stations that had local talent and localization. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened, and they're losing the battle.
Wow.
Now,
I think AM was going.
And in Baltimore, I think they still have like 98 Rock. But again, it's corporatized. But
98 Rock is corporatized, but that corporation, Hearst, Argyle, I have friends that work there. I listen every morning. The morning show, Justin is a friend of mine.
Right, that's all I was going to mention. Right.
Yeah, Justin Slago and I did, like, he put me on his New Year's Eve show at Magoobies in Baltimore. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy to you. He sucks to me, but that's okay.
He's a very amazingly talented guy.
Let me see what the difference is.
He's okay. He's all right. Go ahead. We have
I have friends.
I want to talk about the radio station, not the personalities.
But I have many friends at 98 Rock. But the best thing about 98 Rock is, and they've been up and down with program directors, and I've interviewed with them and talked to people about jobs with them. And between WBAL and 98 Rock, which is the only two radio stations that Hearst owns. But Hearst Argyle owns a bunch of TV stations too. So they are one of the large corporations too. They're a smaller version of all those large corporations. They are much smaller, but they do let their people run the station the way they want to run it.
Right.
One of the things that also infuriates me about 98 Rock is they're still playing all that ancient old dumb butt rock bollocks that I can't stand to listen to. But they also play a lot of modern rock still too.
98 Rock used to be the only place that actually played Crack the Sky. So I used to like that, But other than that,
they were the radio waves of Hammerjacks. Like they were
radio.
That hairband stuff. Like every morning, you're still going to hear probably Def Leppard or Poison throughout the day.
I
hate that music, and I turn it off I listen online through the app, and as soon as pour some sugar on me comes on, it turns off, and I go right back to podcast in the morning.
Dude, I had a small stint on a rock radio station in Panama City, 97X, and mornings, it was a mix of just like that. It was modern rock, which I would love, and then we would end up playing this crappy like 70s hair metal, and it was just so painful.
I don't like that music. If you want to like it, that's cool. Baltimore,
it's not my favorite thing, and I was just like, man, this sucks.
One of the stations I used to work for was
hair metal.
Yeah, one of the stations I used to work for was Jack FM, which is a syndicated adult. It's a male-driven adult contemporary format, and the Baltimore format literally had to change what they played compared to the rest of the Jacks across the country because Baltimore wanted more of the 80s hair metal stuff, so they put that into that format. Whereas you go around the country, you get a lot more of the like old alternative stuff. You get more Joe Jackson. You might get more Elvis Costello. You get a little more like 60s, 70s pop and stuff like that. But they want.
So it's the Joe Jackson stuff. You just hear him beating Michael. Is that? Oh, that's a different Joe Jackson.
That's other Joe Jackson.
We're talking about the Joe Jackson, the man who invented the hula hoop.
But here's where it occurred to me, and maybe I'm wrong about this because I've been wrong about everything else already this morning. That if you
don't worry, you haven't been wrong about everything this morning. It's always everything you're wrong about. It's fine. It's so.
If you ask somebody to define the music of the 2020s, there is no genre. Like if you said the 70s, all metal, you got a different metal, disco, punk. 80s, you got hair metal and hip hop coming.
I'm going to slightly differ with you on that, Matt. I'm going to
90s grunge. All right, now you can.
Okay, I'm just saying only because I had no idea what trap music was until I got inundated with it, which happened in the 2020s. And in almost every genre.
Does that define the 20? Like, if you were going to ask people to define the music of the 2020s,
I think if they knew what trap was, I would think they would say trap. I think a lot of people don't know what trap is. I had no idea what trap was. I was just being inundated with it, and then someone goes, "That's trap music." I'm like, "Why?" Because I just got trapped into listening to it. I don't know.
What genre is Taylor Swift?
Pop.
Probably trap. I have no idea.
So wouldn't the 2020s be defined by pop then?
No, it's not really defined by anything because nobody listens.
I disagree. I think I think one of the things what you're having what's confusing you is I don't think that you're up on modern music because when you get to a certain age, you stop following. I'm getting at an age that I'm starting to like not follow music right now because I don't work in the music industry anymore. I worked in radio. I had friends in bands. I was in bands. I was a consultant for a record label for a small period of time, helping them find new artists and stuff. So I was always up to date on music, and I always wanted to be. I never wanted to be the guy that got old and was like, music was better in my day, because you know what? That's what my dad said. And his dad said it, and everyone's father said it. We just keep perpetually going. My friend Ken Reed, who has an awesome podcast as well called the TV Guidance Counselor Podcast, and he has this thing he talks about is everyone's favorite Saturday Night Live cast was when they were 13 years old. Go throughout history. We're all going to talk about every person at a different age group will say that their SNL cast when they were a teenager was the best cast. And we can find some of the best sketches throughout the 50 years of Saturday Night Live. And every cast had their ups and downs. We all forget about the bad sketches that went out there, everyone forgets how terrible the Muppet sketches were in the first year of Saturday Night Live.
Hey.
I love
watch your mouth. I'm just
I love Jim Henson. I have friends who are legit Muppeteers. And you know what? They will all say that what they were doing on Saturday Night Live was terrible.
I love Lily Tomlin doing I Got You, Babe with Grok. Grok was before it was an AI thing. It was a.
But it's and so the same thing with music. The music you grow up with, you think is better. And I realized early in my career of radio that no one's ever going to think about music the same way I do. Music is subjective, and I always worked hard to find the benefit in everyone's music. Music should never, any art should not be quantitative as good or bad. It should be for me or not for me.
I totally agree.
As somebody who works in the music industry, yes, I could put objective qualities on music, but that still comes from a subjective opinion of things.
Absolutely.
So I hate when somebody says that band sucks.
My little girl used to listen to a band called Charlotte, Sweet Charlotte, or something Charlotte. I can't remember.
Sweet Charlotte.
But something Charlotte, and she said to me, "Dad, how do you know if you're listening to good music?" I said, "You don't know you're listening to good music until 20 years from now when you go to think of music." I said, "And if you can sing it out loud with joy in your heart, then that's good music." I said, "It doesn't matter." Good Charlotte. Thank you.
Oh, I said it before. They're from the DC area.
Yeah.
They're from Waldorf. In fact, one of the bands I used to manage when I was in my young early 20s, one of the bands I used to manage beat Good Charlotte in the Battle of the Bands when we were teenagers. Wow. And then 6 months later, Good Charlotte was on MTV, and my friends work at an auto mechanic place. So
wow. Yeah, but I told her,
I'm not talking necessarily. Hold
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
I'm not
There you
talking necessarily good or bad. I'm just talking about what defines this. Because the 70s, you could say metal and disco and punk define
Well, yeah.
that.
So the
that
point I was going to
decade.
get to is outside of the qualitative qualities of music genres, is there's a lot more genres of music now because we have more access to music now than we ever had in our lives.
Right.
So yes, in the 70s, broadcasting was actually very, very, very narrow. So we were subjective to the music that we were being told was popular by the radio industry, because that's the only place that we could get music was radios and vinyl records, right? And the vinyl records we bought were from the radio stations. There was still so many bands throughout the 70s that also were good or bad, if we're going to just use for the popular and unpopular, that didn't survive the test of time. There's a whole YouTube channel. There's a whole TikTok channel, both of them dedicated to obscure music of the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, but there's another influence. There's another influence we kind of overlook because it's very specific to a period in time. Columbia House Records. When I used to belong to Columbia House Records. Yeah, you get one penny, you buy 12 albums, and then they would randomly send you shit if you didn't opt out. You didn't tell them, don't send me this. So I learned a lot of, I would wind up with I learned about Chick Corea and Uriah Heep because I forgot to tell them not to send me that. Then I wanted to spend like $20 for it. That's one thing. And the other thing is the cut album section of record stores, where you go to there and it's like all the albums are like $1 each. And I would just I would buy 3 albums a month, and one album would be like one that I wanted that I didn't have, one that a friend would recommend, and then I'd go to the cut section and I would just buy $1 album and listen to it. Yeah, and I got
grew up in the 90s. I took a lot of chances on albums because of their album cover artwork. But also, so in the 80s and 90s, we had more outlets to find music from. We had MTV, which you can say is just a different version of radio if you want, because it was still driven by the record industries, and we were getting cultivated musical opinions from the VJs and from the corporation itself. And then we started really listening to word of the mouth throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And of course, the internet happened, discovery became bigger. And now our access to music is so much bigger. So not only do we have access to more music, we have more access to genres of music, and the people who play music have more access to the ability to play music. So we have more creation. We have more independent artists out there.
We have more choices.
Pop is the guaranteed thing for the industries, having a pop artist out there, because you can manufacture a pop artist. It's not hard. It takes a couple $1 million and the right handshakes, and you can make an artist very popular very quickly and easily.
Oh, now we needed a couple $1 million.
But we did it throughout the 80s and 90s with hair bands and grunge bands.
Yeah,
like, you think anybody enjoyed Candlebox until they were like, hey, we can market them as a grunge band? No offense to Candlebox, no offense to Sponge, but they were easily able to be marketed in the grunge era by those record labels.
Yeah, but
Suicide Machines.
But even though nowadays we have more choices,
the Suicide Machines in the 90s got popular in radio play because they were easily to be able to packaged into the punk movement and the ska, third wave ska movement at the time. The reason they got a record label is because they had ska songs. They put out they were easily to be able to package up into that. And no offense to Suicide Machines, I love them, but their popularity was 100% manufactured by the label that wanted a ska punk band that they could market at the time. And their marketing didn't go very far, but I mean, Real Big Fish, you happened to hit at the right time. No doubt. The reason we have No Doubt is not because they were great and wonderful and talented. They are, but it's because Gwen Stefani was easily be able to package and put on stage for the record label.
Yeah. Just say Gwen Stefani a few more times to me.
So we had, but even though we have more options and access to
Gwen Stefani,
what determines a lot of people still, as far as artists go, find themselves being pushed into areas that make the music, which is why I was saying trap music. So even if you're an artist, let's say you're a country artist, they'll say, well, you know what will sell? If you do a country song that has like a trap theme, if you do this with so I'm finding a lot of artists who, because they want to make money.
You're full of trap.
Yeah, because they want to make money, are being funneled, by the money into these areas. That's all I'm saying. It's not like there's not. I'm not saying there's still tons of different types of music out there, and we have access to it. But the people who get into music to make money, or get into it, and now they've been in for a while, they want to make money. They start becoming corporatized, and then they find that sound that the people are willing to spend money on because they're
there's always there's always going to be people who want to make money, and they get into it. They do they sell their souls, they sell out basically, to coin that phrase, especially if we're gonna, since I previously mentioned Real Big Fish, that sell out into those industries. I mean, look how many, the disco era was wrought with people selling out and becoming disco stars.
Yeah.
Kiss did a disco record. If you want to look at any band and talk about, old music is better, Kiss is the first example of how old music is not better. The music sucks. Gene Simmons is a dickhead who also wants nothing but greed and money, and he is the biggest sellout in history, and that's my personal opinion.
Wow, we are out of time for this segment. We have to, because our next guest is here. But I do hope you'll come back. But even in the meantime, I'm going to come up there and take the tour. How do I know where I'm going to get you and not somebody else? Though that's
you can DM my character UK Lee Duck, or you can just email me. You have my email there, Matt. So you can email me directly. We can work out the timing. But if you are in the Boston area and you want to take a Boston Duck tour with Boston's punk duck UK Lee, you just DM me on Instagram, UK Lee Duck, and I'll let you know what my schedule is and how to best join me for a tour around the city of Boston. You can be a member of my band.
Love it. I look forward to that, man. I really appreciate it. You've been a great guest, and I appreciate you spending some time with us this morning.
And you should get Steven on your podcast about what people do, because he is a professional cripple during the day.
It's true. I gimp around all day. Great parking.
He fakes it. Anyway, thank you for being here, Dennis.
He fakes it like his AI girlfriend.
Yep. Dennis.
God damn it.
Dennis, deadairdennis.com. I'm sorry. Why do I want to put that backwards? Anyway, deadairdennis.com, folks. Go there. And
it's an ironic nickname because dead air means silence, and I never stop talking.
We noticed, believe me. I love it. Anyway, thanks for being here. Have a great day. Bye for now. GD, keep that energy, because I know you have a lot to say this morning, but Dennis was not giving you dead air to actually do that. But I think we're going to need it for the next segment. I just want to say, because this morning, as people who don't know, Steven has recently taken up bass guitar, and I was confronted with a Gene Simmons video of him demonstrating bass guitar, and I was going to tell Steven, this is what you want to watch to learn what not to do. You don't want to do anything Gene Simmons does, because he's the worst. Even though he's a multi-millionaire, probably approaching.
He's a marketing genius. That's about it.
Yeah, but he will teach you exactly everything you should avoid doing when you want to play the bass guitar.
Okay. He has a nice wardrobe.
Does he?
The shoes. I like the shoes.
I think Nikki Sixx has a better sense of
foreign wife, right? That's what he's got. That's what he's got going for him.
I think Nikki Sixx has a better sense of style than
Let me take Dennis's thing out of the banners before we say hello to Captain Kirk. Not Captain Kirk. Well, he's a former Captain Kirk. He's a retired captain from the United States Corps of Engineers. He's been with us before. We were talking about civics last time he was here. He's a graduate of South Dakota Tech in engineering and Colorado State in math education. And he has a book coming out called Affidavit Secrets, which is the name of the website that we're going to send people to. Welcome back, Captain Kirk. Good morning, Captain Kirk. Oh, it does say Captain Kirk.
Hey. Good to be here, but the name of the book is not Affidavit Secrets.
Yeah.
The name of the book is Officer Hanson, Compassion in Blue.
Why do I have that wrong? But the website is Affidavit Secrets. Now, if I go there, it puts me on like a waiting list for the book, though, right? Is that what?
Well, you can get a template. What we talked about last time, the power of paper. We use affidavits to control government officials. You can get the template there that we basically use for all of our affidavits. And you can get every other day you get a chapter summary from the book.
So why do I have to get on a wait? It says I'm getting on a waiting list. That's what it says when I get there. There's a form that I fill out. It says it will put me on a waiting list for those things. Is that available now? All those things available now?
Yes, it's available now, and when the book comes out, you'll be notified. That's all.
Okay. All right. Last time you were here, we were talking about civics, and I asked you about Citizens United. And your answer to the question was, I'm not familiar with that organization. It's not necessarily an organization. It's a Supreme Court case that I was referring to that basically allowed unlimited dark money, corporate money into politics. And I think this is our biggest problem with the political spectrum today. It's not so much, well, it could be a lot of things, but I think the unlimited amount of secret dark money and contributions that candidates can take it's like the biggest problem. If we could undo all the secret money, the hidden money, the dark money, the agenda-driven money, I think our politics would be much better. I think that 2010 case, I think Scalia was still alive, and could be what got him not alive. But with that, do you have any kind of take on the idea that it's dark money that is ruining our politics right now?
Dark money is ruining our politics.
Right.
But it's not something that I can control. I want to use the power of paper to control government, whether they're getting a lot of money or not. The Constitution began with the words, "We the people." If I have to have some organization come in to guard me from misbehaving government officials, then I'm hamstrung. I need to be able to have a method by which I can go after government officials in their personal capacity.
Now, but with that though, because the affidavits that you're doing are only as effective as the people in office or the people who will recognize them. In other words, if you have the affidavits and it's based on legalities and constitution and so forth, someone has to be willing to interpret it that way. And if you have money saying, we understand what he's saying, and technically what Kirk is saying, and technically is right, with enough money, they can ignore it, they can skew it another way, and they can throw so much money to politicians or the judges that are hearing your case that it makes it null and void. So you can be legally right and legally accurate based on your interpretation. Another judge or another politician can be paid so that their interpretation, no matter how wrong it is, like Citizens United or the fact that Trump is above the law, those things, they're basing their decisions on constitutions, but because of money, they're just looking at it, they're just skewed to look at it that way, which would pretty much discount any reasonable argument you may have.
Is that a question or just a
no? It was just an observation.
Oh, would you like to comment on
it? We took Best Buy to small claims court. Cost me $50 plus I had to serve them. So I had to drive to Glendale in order to serve them. When they had to show up, I considered it a victory. People would say, well, did you win? Well, I didn't like the masking mandate that the governor of California put upon us. So I took action rather than just complaining about the situation. I took action and I forced a major corporation to send one of their managers to small claims court.
But okay,
if I did it, others can do it also.
Yeah, but before you go on with that, because a small claims court has a limit of like 50. I don't know, but I thought it was like $1,500 or whatever it is. It's to a major corporation. Why would they even bother sending somebody? Why not just write it off as a loss? Or
because I wasn't asking for money. I don't go into small claims court trying to get money. I'm trying to get things changed. for the better.
So if they don't show up, they lose by default. But what do you win by default?
I get the court to sanction Best Buy for their actions. Then I can put that into the public record, and it has teeth to bite. My desire is that when a government official like the Attorney General for the state of California, he's been served by the Trump administration with a notification letter of sorts, basically warning him that if he continues with his sanctuary state policies, he could be held liable for criminal as well as civil action. Our affidavit to the Attorney General, we're not asking for any money. All we want is for a court to sanction that he has violated his oath of office. If a man or woman violates his oath of office, he loses his right to practice law. He cannot hold a political position. He has to give it up.
What you're saying is true, but it depends on who's enforcing it. Because you have the very president of the United States who violated his oath of office, and because the people, the people that should be enforcing it aren't enforcing it, he's allowed to do it, and he can keep on doing it. And it doesn't matter how often we say and prove that he's violated his oath of office. He can still.
I don't think he even knows his oath of office. According to last week, he didn't know that he's supposed to uphold the Constitution. That's what he said. I mean, were you not listening when both times when you took the oath? That's pretty damning stuff. But to GD's point, I think not living up to the oath of office is the rule rather than an exception in politics right now. I see people doing it all across.
Absolutely correct. But that's because the people don't do it. We want government to do it. We want Trump to do it. This country is not going to survive if we, the people, don't understand how to do it. The beautiful thing is I don't have to win an election. I don't have to convince 51% of the people to go along with me. You give me 300 people in Riverside County, just 300 people, and I personally believe we can bend the will of the supervisors. Look, we had a guy out here who was running around as a chief medical officer telling people that businesses that they had to close, especially restaurants, putting restaurants out of business. We took the law to his office. We put it on his desk. We told him exactly what he was doing wrong in violation of the Code of Federal Regulations. He did absolutely nothing. So we put the affidavit into another letter and sent an additional affidavit to the supervisors. The supervisor, who didn't know me from Adam, found out, well, I probably had my phone number somewhere. He called me up on the phone. He's never called me on the phone before, but he was really upset. He didn't like my affidavit. I said, sir, you're culpable for the actions of your hireling. He's violating federal laws that are constitutional. You got a problem. I'm just telling you, you need to do something about it.
Okay.
He hung up, and within 2 months, that gentleman that was going around and closing everything had been relieved of his duty. Gone. You know, if this was just me talking, but I've been working with Jack and Margie Flynn, who've been doing this process for 6 decades. When I first met them and they said, we have over 10,000 victories, I thought that was a hyperbole. But I've been using the process out here and I've got 6 wins just myself. I'm just one guy. The biggest problem is not corporate dark money. The biggest problem is apathetic, indifferent, cowardly Americans.
Well, I think that
who sit on their butt all day long and do virtually nothing. And on Sunday morning, they'll go in and sing praises to God who told them to fight injustice.
Right.
This is the word I have.
I do think apathy, and it's a weird kind of apathy because it's an aggressive on social media. I'm an expert in everything type of apathy, but I can write on social media, but I don't have the energy to get out of my chair. Now, a lot of people are intimidated by the affidavit process and what it takes to write one. You're not a lawyer, right?
I went to law school, but no, I never got a law
Okay,
degree.
so maybe that's where you. That I think probably. I think the part of the problem is people are intimidated by things that are
That's
legalese and language and all that. How do I even begin to write an affidavit? You know.
well, as we said the last time, the key is having the first paragraph and the last paragraph. The points of law. Look, this whole thing started out with me with just a traffic ticket. And I researched the law and I found out exactly what, and it's pretty easy to go on the internet and find people who've been writing on this for decades. So I put the basic information into the affidavit, but the key was the first paragraph. The first paragraph points out to them their responsibility under the law to answer. So don't tell me to go talk to an attorney. You wanted the job. This is part of your job description. Answer. The final paragraph says if you don't answer within 30 days, then everything in it can be used against you personally in any court in America. And that includes small claims court, especially in California, where in California, you can sue for discrimination. You can't do that in Wisconsin. I just got back from Wisconsin where I gave a series of talks, and they were telling me, we can't do what you guys can do. Okay, so in your case, you'll have to take them to Superior Court, and you're going to have to dig a little better. You're going to have to know your P's and Q's a lot better. The small claims court, you're just walking in and telling the judge, this is the law. You know the law, rule in my favor. And she won't. I understand that. But that's the point of the 300. A couple of people doing this, not going to get it done. 300? 300, we'll get it done.
All right. Did anything significant come of your victory against Best Buy? Was it Best Buy, right, that you talked about earlier?
Well, I would never say that my affidavit changed everything, but my affidavit was part of a situation that brought about the removal of the masks within 2 months from my court date. There aren't any masks. Somebody had to do something other than just talking about the problem. That's what most talk shows are all about. We just talk about the problem.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a large extent. Like some people like me actually ran for office. Now it was a failed attempt, but trying to raise the issues. And again, I am my biggest issue was running a no money campaign. I think to disagree with your point that dark money is not the problem. I think apathy is a big part of the problem, but I do think the money situation and the way these campaigns are funded is a major problem, and the lack of transparency of who is working for who when they're casting their votes, especially in Congress, is a huge. Why are you really taking this position? Is it because this is what you believe your constituents support, or is it because this is what you believe the people who are paying you support? I think that's a big part of our problem. But
it's a huge part of the problem. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, with writing all these affidavits, have you gotten some traction in America from people who are responding to this and following your lead on, I guess your lead on this this issue of using smaller claims courts or things like that in order to bring about change? Have you seen other people following in your footsteps?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Especially the people in St. Croix County, Wisconsin. They're ahead of me in their ability to gather people together to do this. I'm having difficulty getting more people involved, but in the short amount of time that they've been working in St. Croix, they've already gotten several people to resign from office, and people are winning elections.
Wow. Last time, I thought you were in Texas because last time you were in here, you were wearing a Yankee hat, and I thought I was, I thought you were in Houston. Why do I have that impression? It's just because I'm old and full of dementia?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I don't know why. I thought Texas. Anyway, so with this on a bigger scale now, on the federal scale, and bigger offices than, let's say, an attorney general, a state attorney general, does this is it scalable?
Absolutely.
Congress people, senators, like suing a senator for what? What do we?
I did send an affidavit to my congressman listing his votes that are unconstitutional. However, I didn't move on to that one because I recognize if you can't pick the fruit at the county level, how are you going to do it at the state or national level? You have to
Right.
start somewhere. And when I send an affidavit to somebody locally, they, at least my experience has been, it's been very positive.
So hold on a second. If with the if the citizenry follow suit here, and we have people all over the place, if we had a country of people filing affidavits against elected officials, wouldn't that just cause chaos? Because you'd have people both on the left and the right and in the center just going crazy, just suing people, and they'd be spending more time litigating those issues than actually doing any real governing. Yeah, or yes or no? Because sounds confusing to me.
See, I love to have people on the left get involved in this because my personal opinion is people on the left only talk about the Constitution when it's favorable to them. The point is, every affidavit has to follow the oath of office to the Constitution. You've got to have an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. So people have to study the Constitution. If you can't find errors by your government officials due to the constitutional violations, then you have no case. Now, it's quite easy to do it, actually, because people on the left and the right are violating the Constitution all the time. But the affidavit, what they call the affiant, the person who creates the affidavit, he has to know the Constitution sufficiently to put the affidavit together. One of the things you have to be careful of is you got all these people out there who want to do something, but they don't want to study a law at all. So they can't defend themselves in court. You can't defend the Constitution in the courtroom. You have to be able to do that, but this is not rocket science. I've had discussions with lawyers, and I've come to the conclusion in certain areas of the law, certain precise areas of the law, I know law better than they do. And it hasn't anything to do with my going to law school. Because if I was in law school, I wasn't learning anything about Constitution and jurisdiction. You know, one of the most important statements in the Declaration of Independence from Thomas Jefferson are these words. He, speaking of the king, has combined with others, speaking of Parliament and the colonial governor, he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, and that is not the United States Constitution, which came 11 years later.
11 years later, right.
And unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of, here it comes, pretended legislation. Any statute passed at the county, state, federal level that is unconstitutional is pretended legislation. And when they do that, and they get away with it because Americans don't call them on it, it fertilizes the weeds and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But the beautiful thing is, in order to pull up those weeds, we don't need 51% of the people. We need a small contingency of people who are focused on a specific person. And let's go get the guy at the county level who doesn't have a lot of dark money supporting him. And let's take care of a few of those people, and then we'll move to a higher level. And it becomes a grassroots effort across well, I'm not even talking about the country. I'm still talking about the county of Riverside, California. That's what I'm concerned about. If I can't win here on a consistent basis, I have no business talking about the state or federal. However, we are going after our attorney general because he is so blatantly bad. We have to do something about him.
All right. Just because I'm going to paraphrase right now, but your opening line in that answer you just gave was the left only talks about the Constitution when it's favorable to them. I think that everybody, left, right, and center, does. I mean, I don't see any difference of anybody depending on affiliation or ideology. Everybody wants to they want to cherry pick the things that support their beliefs and their agenda.
That's generally true.
Yeah, I do
But
think
the point is, I have been taught by Jack and Margie Flynn. I have been schooled in this book, Officer Hanson, by Dale Brown in Detroit, who teaches police officers how to handle situations psychologically instead of with violence. The people who have taught me are all on the right. I haven't gotten any help from people on the left.
Wow. That's surprising considering that the goal here, I don't know if goal, but one of the ideas you're presenting is using less violence from the police and more psychological tactics. I would think the left would support that completely.
I would think so too. And they probably do. But all I know is that the people who've taught me on these two areas, the power of paper and de-escalation of violence by law enforcement, are people on the right.
Now, there's not everybody is, I don't think anybody's like completely on the right. Maybe they're on the right in those issues, but in others, they may be on the left. I think that people, as a general of thumb, are mishmash. I mean, some people can take apart some of my thoughts and go, he's definitely conservative. And they can take some of my thoughts and go, he's definitely progressive. So I'm just saying maybe the people that you're referring to, maybe with those issues, they're on the right. And do they have some other issues where they may be, quote, left?
Yes, absolutely. There are lots of libertarians, especially, are very helpful.
I don't even know where left and right. Most of my life, I have thought of myself as a very conservative person. If you listen to people on social media, I am a commie, woke, left, radical, leftist, whatever. It's like what. I don't think we throw around left and right as if they have meaning in today's world.
Yes.
I don't even know where it is, where the lines are drawn anymore, and because we don't even really talk about issues. It becomes personality driven, and I don't like your guy, you don't like my guy type of thing, and so I'm not even sure where the lines of left. And you'd say libertarianism. I think Douglas Murray had it right when he said the libertarians are the bisexuals of politics. They want an open buffet. They want to eat off anything. They want to enjoy both sides of the party. That's and when I don't say party, I mean the orgy. They want to enjoy everything that's on the buffet at the orgy. That's the libertarians. They want to take all of it. I don't know. So how do you define left and right? How do you define somebody on the right?
It's basically a person who has studied the law and holds the law to be high in their regard. If they haven't read
so Barack Obama was a constitutional professor. He studies the law. I wouldn't say he's on the right.
Hey, I've talked to enough lawyers to know that they're very good at certain aspects of the law, but they don't have an endearing devotion to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. A guy can teach constitutional law and not necessarily actually use the Constitution as anything other than something to stand on when you want to project your opinions.
Yeah.
I believe very strongly in using the Constitution and the affidavit process effectively in the courtroom. Most people don't do that. even people. Look, I had a discussion with a woman who's running to be a judge. When everybody was gone, I went up to talk to her because I didn't want to embarrass her. And the first thing I asked her is, ma'am, according to the Seventh Amendment, well, just tell me, what is the Seventh Amendment? Now, this woman is an assistant district attorney. She wants to be a judge, and she doesn't know what's the Seventh Amendment. I said, ma'am, that's the amendment that gives me a right to have a jury trial in your courtroom. She didn't know that. And I said, and it's even more profound to me in what it goes on to say. It says every point of law, just say that, I'm paraphrasing, every point of law shall be adjudicated according to the rules of common law. You start right there. Give me the rules of common law. Give me 10 rules of common law. The average American can't give you 5.
Right.
Some of the most important ones were not in the Bill of Rights.
I would
don't know
say
why
the
they
average
weren't.
American can't give you 1, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever the number is.
In the First Amendment, you got 5. You got 5 right there. But one of them's called a petition for redress of grievances, and most people just think that's a letter. It's just a letter complaining to somebody.
Yeah.
No, mine aren't letters. They're affidavits. And you better deal with them. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
I would agree with that. I'm glad you brought up this whole idea of judges and politicians not knowing. You can name numbers of amendments, and I would probably have to go back and say which one is that again. And I'm not going to say I'm a scholar on the law. I'm not going to say that, but I do know some basic concepts. And one of the things, due process, comes from the Magna Carta. It goes back to 1,000 years now. And we are seeing people saying, well, due process only belongs to citizens. And while that sounds like, well, we should have different rights than people who are here illegally, if we go down that path, the people who want to say, people they don't like, you're a non-citizen, and we don't have to prove it because we don't owe you due process because you're an illegal immigrant. They could say that about anybody. So if you hold due process only for a select number of people, due process doesn't exist, because part of the process is them proving the case against you. So I think that's the huge issue we're dealing with right now. Is we want to hear, well, due process, and we're going to suspend habeas corpus and all this kind of stuff. Well, you only deserve. You don't have to fight for due process. Any government should have to prove why, state while they're arresting you, hear you out, hear your case, and prove that you are in violation of whatever they say you're in violation of before they do anything to you. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. The gentleman that was moved to El Salvador.
Right.
He had already been in court, 3 times? They've already given him due process.
Yeah, and according to that, he was allowed to stay.
Was he convicted of any crimes?
No, he was allowed the opportunity to be moved to another country other than El Salvador.
Are we talking about Albergo or Albergo Garcia? Because that's what I was speaking of.
Right. He should not have been moved to get El Salvador.
He shouldn't have been deported.
He had to leave the country.
No, he didn't have to leave the country. He still had permission to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had permission to be here during the Biden administration.
Even still, he still had permission to be here.
Yeah, in order to revoke his permission to be here, that would require due process, which was never afforded to him.
Right, because even the Trump administration admitted that what they did was an error, and which is why they fired that attorney that admitted to it.
Yeah.
They fired the attorney that says we did it in error.
And beyond just the singular cases, they are making the case, the administration and everybody who is advocating for them on social media is making this case that due process is only for citizens. And in that case, they can have an open window now to say anybody we don't like would just say there's an illegal immigrant. Even if they were born here, no matter what, we can just say that, and we don't have to prove anything. We can deport them. That becomes open license just to prosecute your enemies and persecute your enemies, political enemies. No?
Well, I don't agree with that, but let's just say, as you say, it is true. What are we going to do about that?
What am I going to do about it?
Well, we're going to, okay, one of the aspects of common law, rules of common law, is something called standing. How many times during the post-2020 election we heard Trump's law case was denied due to lack of standing?
Right.
Under the common law, if they come after you, you're part of the community, I can come to your defense using an affidavit, calling them out for what they're doing wrong. So if the process is now being turned on its head regarding due process, then it's the proper action of the American people to go after the people who are doing this by means of the affidavit process.
But in some cases, the affidavit does not, if it may not, in that jurisdiction, that affidavit may not have standing. So it only has as much weight as friends of the court. So you can present your affidavit, but it has no legal standing. And all it is your opinion to say to the court, I think this, as a general rule of thumb, I think this. And the court can say, okay, he thinks it, friend of the court thing, yeah, fine. But he doesn't, but legally he has no standing, either because of the point of origin or for whatever reason.
My affidavit is made out to a specific person.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's a specific person that we're going to be taking into the courtroom.
But if you sent your affidavit, I'm just saying, if you sent your affidavit, let's say to a Supreme Court thing right now, like there's some cases Supreme Court you feel strongly about, you send your affidavit and you may not have standing there, but your affidavit is only there as a friend of the court. It's just more like a courtesy.
Just to be clear here, are you suggesting that I could take a Supreme Court justice to small claims court in New York?
No, I'm not suggesting that.
All right.
I'm suggesting that we start on the local level and learn law. I learn more law by going to court trying to defend myself. One of the things that I learned from a judge, he said, Mr. Beck, you're going to have to explain that. I began to explain it. He said, stop. What you're saying is valid. However, that's not why we're here today. You should have brought that up by means of a pretrial motion. This is pretty elementary law. If you're going to argue jurisdiction, then you have to argue it in the proper venue. You don't argue it when you're going to court on their dime. You have to bring it to the court's attention. What's going on in our courtrooms across the country is statutory jurisdiction. It's not common law jurisdiction. You have to get the people back to understanding the common law. We're going to have to study law more, but I'm giving up on 90% of the American people. They're not going to do it. And 90% of the American people sat out the Revolutionary War. They didn't get involved. They weren't freezing their toes off and their fingers off at Valley Forge. They were selling crops to the British in Philadelphia. The great majority of the American people will do nothing. And that's why I have very little hope for elections changing things. But I do believe
I agree with you. Most people do nothing. The only problem is that the thing is not everyone is cut out to, let's say, write affidavits because everybody has their own skill sets. So while they should be fighting, they have to fight from the place where they are using the talents that they have.
No.
Yeah, that's true. Not everyone. Not everyone is.
Listen. Hey, my friend, just listen to this. I went to my Wisconsin people before I actually flew out there, and I explained what I was trying to do. And I said to the guy, you need to create an affidavit, send it to me, and I'll look it over. He had one within an hour. And I'm reading the sucker, and I said, my God, this guy doesn't need my help. This is an awesome affidavit. How in the world did you get? Because you're telling me you don't know anything about affidavits and you wrote that? He said, yeah, I put it in Grok. AI wrote the affidavit.
Yikes.
I just put the first paragraph and the last paragraph in. They came up with all the points of law that were being violated.
Every time I use Grok, I get the weirdest responses from
So
it.
the same app that is creating Steven's new girlfriend is writing affidavits.
Hey, Grok here. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, wow, Grok. Why?
Grok, watch him.
I've used Grok quite a bit, and and I can argue with Grok. Say, what you forgot this?
I did not know that. How do you argue with him?
You just come back and ask him, well, what about this? And they actually came back and they said, it actually came back and basically said, yeah, you're right.
Wow, you changed Grok's mind?
Yeah, because they didn't check that point out.
See, that was about one of the things I was about to say, because leaving it to AI to write your affidavit, AI is educated a certain way, and it's not going to cover all the bases. And if
I
you
want
do not
to write an
know,
affidavit about the Kentucky Derby.
what I'm saying, but if you don't know to challenge it, you'll accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to my point: is that not everyone is cut out for that, because you have to know what to challenge at times.
Exactly.
So you're going to need help. You're going to need an outside source to do that. Not everybody can fight from the same place.
So on Thursdays, I open up my YouTube channel and I talk to people about affidavits.
Very cool. We only have a couple minutes left. Let's talk about the book. The book, can you hold up the book again? Because I don't have a cover of it. Now, that's available now, Officer Hanson, and something about compassionate. What is? Let me see the bottom tagline. Compassion in Blue. Okay, and is it out now?
We're formatting right now. It should be out hopefully the end of this week. We hoped it would be during the month of April, but it's going to be this month for sure.
Where do do we send people to affidavitsecrets.com to find out where to buy the book, or is it just going to be on Amazon or Barnes & Noble?
Well, it'll be on Amazon. You can just put that title into Amazon and buy it probably later this month.
All right.
But the book started 25 years ago. 25 years ago, my youngest son was kind of a violent kid. And I was trying to teach him that so much more can be accomplished by reason and discussion with people than using force.
And then you smacked the shit out of him and said, listen to me. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
The point is that it was my desire to teach him how to try to work against violence. And then providentially, I met Dale Brown, who's in Detroit, who has been teaching police officers for years how to use psychology, martial arts, and compassion, patience to largely decrease the amount of violence that police officers encounter.
Yeah.
That a lot of times they escalate.
Is it a book of fiction? The book, is it a fictional book, or is Officer Hanson a real person?
Officer Hanson is a fictional person, but much of the story is actual stories that I've got from cops.
Okay. So, is it a novel or?
It's a novel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a novel.
All right. Very cool.
But I reference a lot of actual happenings in the world, including things that have happened to me in my interaction with police officers. Chapter 29, as an example, is the thin blue line. The thin blue line has two meanings. The positive one is that the cops are out there to protect you. The negative side of it is that sometimes the cops protect each other. And that's what happened to me in Washington, D.C. in 1972. Goes back a long, long way.
Yeah.
But a cop was trying to defend another cop and would have seriously affected public safety in what he was doing. So that's in my book. I found that the easiest chapter to write because it was all about the things that I experienced.
That's why it confused me. That why you would, and listen, I'm not judging anything, but why you would go down the path of writing a novel when the truth is not only stranger than fiction. It's more readily available and easier to write about.
Well, my personal experience in life have been largely rather boring, but I do every once in a while come across something that happened to me in DC that people need to know about.
Yeah.
So
you have a
I
lot
put
of
that in the
common
book.
with Steven because his life is very boring.
Yeah.
Which is why he has to invent AI girlfriend. Anyway, we thank you for being part of this show again, and hopefully more people will become involved. I'm not sure that we want everybody involved because some people, if we get them involved, then they're just not going to be helpful to the situation.
Exactly. That's true.
But I do think more people, including myself, should learn more about the law and specifically the Constitution and what it really says.
I'm sorry, Matt. You said it wrong. You said it wrong. You know you're supposed to do it like this. Constitution. You're supposed to say it like that. Constitution.
Well, all right.
I'm sorry. That's an inside joke, Kirk. He was
okay.
He was teasing me because
I say it outside sometimes. I just walk around.
He was teasing me. Whenever I would bring up the Constitution, he would tease me and go, "The Constitution, the Constitution." So,
I programmed my AI girlfriend every time we're in bed. When she finishes, she screams, "Constitution!" It's pretty hot.
I'm sorry you had to put up with that, Kirk. Anyway, thanks for being here, and good luck with the book.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye now.
All right.
AffidavitSecrets.com. Ian says, what does he say here? This guest is not vibing with GD. I don't know. GD has his own set of vibes. So I don't think he wants to invite Captain Kirk to use his vibes.
I prefer Captain Picard anyway.
Hey.
Really?
Hey. Captain Kirk was much better than
Captain Picard was way cooler.
Is this a generational thing?
Make it so. Make it so.
I think it's a generational thing. I think if we ask more like
I
millennials
appreciate
like Steven,
Captain Kirk. I appreciate his swagger. I appreciate his knowledge. I appreciate his rebellious.
Let me just
nature.
tell you, William Shatner's a dick. I've gotten to it's been a while. I think he probably blocked me, but we used to get in arguments on Twitter all the time. He told me he's not a name caller, but he makes exceptions for me.
I believe that. Yeah, I was always a Captain Picard guy myself.
Did he call you a Romulan cunt? Sorry, Klingon cunt.
You smell like Romulan pussy.
Yeah, you little Klingon.
You Gorg. You Gorg taint.
So, can I tell you guys a little story? Go
ahead.
Once upon a time,
Gwen Stefani.
Oh, I love it. Once upon a time.
So about 2 years ago, when I first moved here, there was a couple across the street, an older couple, Audrey and Bill, and they were like parents. I mean, they were older than me. So
is this the house that's still under reconstruction?
Huh?
Is this the house that's still being rebuilt and under reconstruction?
No. Well, it's been completely rebuilt. It's done. But so Audrey and Bill were a lovely couple. They both died. And then this guy, Mike, moves in. And Mike is a construction worker, big, burly guy. He's never lived in the country before. And he saw me in my driveway feeding apples to a wild deer. And he stopped. He goes, "What the hell are you doing? I can't believe it." He was like, this place is like the Field of Dreams. He couldn't believe you could feed an apple to a wild animal and they would eat out of your hands. And he was just like, he was overcome with I don't know, some kind of
childlike reaction.
Yes. And that was the only time I ever met him. "Hi, I'm Mike. I'm the new guy over there." And then I watched him rebuild this house and take all the trees out and do landscaping. And I've never really had any words with him since then. Friday night, I'm in here doing some work, and I hear my wife yelling, "Bah, bah, bah." I was just thinking, I'm going to ignore that. But it just kept going on. So then she said, "I think there's something going on in the street. Violence. People are screaming and somebody's getting hurt." I'm still going to ignore that. Why is that? Call the cops. How is that my problem?
Fuck them.
But it's not like New York City. I mean, that shit doesn't happen here all the time. It's country. So eventually she nagged long enough. I went outside. I'm standing in my yard, and she goes, "It's coming from down that way." I'm looking down the block, and I see this old elderly couple walking toward me, and I'm waiting for them to get near me so I could ask them, "What's going on down there? Does anybody need any help?" And while I'm doing that, I hear, "Oh, fuck it!" And it's Mike, and he looks over at me, and he goes, "What's your fucking problem?" I was like, I'm standing up on the top of my hill right now on my yard, by the way. And I look at him. I'm like, "Well, I'm not allowed to look over there." But now I see where the screaming's coming from. And he's just like, "What's your fucking problem?" And he says these words, but I didn't really hear this come out of his mouth. My wife told me. He said, "You never want anything to do with me before, but now you got something to say." I was like, "All right, well, whatever." And he starts to come towards me like he's going to fight. And you tell me, "Get back in your house." I'm not going to get back in my house. That's what a fucking little twist of a girly man would do. I'm going to stand my ground. And I'm at the top of a hill. And I understand if he wants to fight me, listen, he's not my age, but he's probably close to my age. And he's not going to run across his yard, down a hill, across the street, and uphill to fight. Even if he was a 20-year-old, I got the higher ground. I got all the advantage.
You got the high ground.
Yeah, you're not fucking running up a hill at me and succeeding, and you're gonna get knocked down pretty quick, and it's gonna be embarrassing. But he's clearly drunk. He's hammered. So a friend of his stopped him from running across the street and running after me. Again, brings him back in the house, and then 2 seconds later he comes out and he's almost in tears. He goes, I'm sorry. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I go in my house, and my wife's saying, why did you just come back in the house? I was like, that's what a fucking girly man twist would do. I'm not doing that. I'm standing my ground. So I said, I'll wait till tomorrow when he sobers up, and I'll go over and have a talk with him. And so next day came, and I'm like, I don't really want to do this. I smoked a joint, and I go walking over. I knock on his door, and I take like 4 steps back and wait for him to come to the door. And I said, I come in friendship and peace. Is it safe? And he starts laughing. He went, "Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. I've been there. Who hasn't been there with a point where you just fucking yelling and screaming and like hammered?
I haven't been there.
You have to. We have it on tape. We have it on tape.
Yeah, roll the tape.
You're yelling it. Anyway.
Oh, sorry. They didn't have it prepared.
No.
So I said, you don't have to apologize to me. I just want to explain what I was doing out there. Like, I wasn't being aggressive towards you. My wife told me somebody was in danger out in the street. I'm looking down the block. I don't see anything. I'm waiting for this couple. And then I see you. And before I know it, you're getting aggressive at me. I was like, I'm not. But I would think if you were killing your wife or about to do anything like make a bad decision, and having me stop you before you made that bad decision, that would be a good thing, right? Oh, yeah. And then he said, well, let me tell you what happened. I backed into my garage door. He backs into his garage door, fucks up his garage door, and now he's angry and he's pissed and he goes to open his front door and he bangs it off the hinges. And now he's just screaming at the door. And the fact that everything, he broke his garage door, he broke his house door, and his wife is just yelling at him to stop yelling like my wife would be like, "You're a fucking madman. You're gonna fucking drive the neighbors." And that's all that was really going on. The guy was hammered, fucked up his house, and was yelling at stuff. So I said, "But I got to clear up something because you said something my wife heard, and because you were drunk." In vino veritas, in the wine is the truth. When you're drunk, you're going to say something you really mean that you wouldn't say. And my wife heard you say, "You never wanted to do anything to do with me before, but now you all of a sudden you're here." And I said, "Listen, I'm socially awkward. I don't make good friends. And people who have been my friend regret it. Nobody wants to be my friend. But if you want to be friends, I'd be happy to be a friend with you. My door's always open. You can come over." I said, "I'm an old stoner musician, fucking painter guy. All I do is fucking get, I don't, so, but there's no real interest here." And then he said, "Well, me too." And then he goes, "Hug." All right. I'm not a hugger, but okay. Now it's like if you could see Mike, he's like this big burly construction guy giving me a hug. Like, oh,
So
long time out. The time elapsed on the hug thing. Let's move along.
So you've upgraded from Ace Hardware parking lots to meeting guys at their house.
Yeah, neighbors.
See, I was going to say, so now Matt now has a bong for two, so they can just share a bong.
The Lady and the Tramps a bong hit.
That's exactly where I was going to go with this. Like, I'm just budgeting for a weed at this point.
The real ending.
One. I don't really want somebody coming over. And then they blew each other at the end. I don't know if that's the end.
That was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Exactly. Why would that have to be the end? I think Slaptail is very limited in his thinking. It
sounds like somebody had some regrets, huh? No
regrets.
So there's that. So now me and Mike are going to become friends, but I am going to have to
buy more weed.
You're going to have him on the show?
Budget. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to have him on the show because then he'll tell everybody about how I didn't blow him as well as he blew me.
So Matt, just out of you ignored Carl Mann. He appeared into the room, made some comments, and you damaged him by not. You were saying, "Where's Carl? Where's Carl?" He shows up and you ignore him.
I didn't ignore him. I was going to get to him. Carl, why don't you come on the program anymore? You don't love us. You're mad at me. Now you got a girlfriend like Steven. You have an AI girlfriend. But regardless,
I've never even seen pictures of his girlfriend. What the fuck?
This is true. We don't even have an AI girlfriend, Carl. Is it Rosie Palm and her 5 sisters? Is that who you're making love to? Back in the UK, vibing to Kanye.
There was an R&B song that says, "Who's making love to your left hand while you're out making love?" Remember that song, Matt? Who's making
Kanye.
love? No, Kanye didn't sing it. Let me see.
It was a Motown song. Why does he have infinitely more time? Have you lost your why? Why? This is what I.
What has happened? Hurry up! I have to leave soon.
We have to know. Yeah, we need to know. Let's call back in the club. That's it. Carl has never been banished from the club. StreamYard took away his seat, but we'll find a way to get him on here. We'll send him links every day or whatever. StreamYard has this thing where you can have like a reusable studio, so the link never changes. But I'm like, doesn't that leave the door open to any of these fucking guests coming in anytime they want unannounced? Then I'm not sure I want that.
You would have to ban them from that studio.
Yeah,
to not let them back in.
So, Steven, you say you have to go soon. You got to go. Are there kids waiting?
Stop! No.
Well, this is why I want to challenge you to bring your AI girlfriend on here because, first of all, I'm going to tell her that you're a 2-time loser with no money, no career, and
she knows, and she's seen the show. She knows.
So, what do you have? Like a 19-inch dick? How do you even have a girlfriend? Being in a wheelchair, no future, no comedic career whatsoever going on. I
do have a comedic career going on. As a matter of fact, I've booked shows in July and August.
Ooh.
Once I have my car, I will finalize those plans.
Let me add no car, motherfucker, to the. Man,
I will have a car in 2 weeks.
Your resume as a boyfriend, just it's not. Thank you for applying, but we've moved on to other candidates who are more qualified. That's what
I have. I don't know.
She's not real. She's not real.
No, she's 100% real.
Where is she? Where is she?
She lives in Fort Wayne. She lives about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from where I used to live.
Wow.
Actually, she lives almost next door to the comedy club.
Almost next door to the comedy club. Like I live almost next door to
she's like 2 blocks from the comedy club.
I live almost next door to my neighbor. He's only 200, 300 feet away. But it's the only. But there is no building between us. But I'm almost next door to him.
That's a really long way for someone to live in an apartment building, GD. Anyways,
so GD, you weren't vibing with Captain Kirk at all, but I think.
Well, mainly because his premises are convoluted. His premises, his premises start from a weird place.
I gotta take off.
I will see you tomorrow. You were going to sleep anyway. I'm glad we woke you up after Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
We saw you nodding off. I needed the snoring.
I was talking to John Beavers as we were both bored half to fucking death.
I said that he was going to be a boring guest, didn't I? Say that? Last time
he said that, and he said he needed us to engage. So what do? You check out.
I know.
Just when he needs us to engage, you check out. You pussy fuck.
Yeah. When we had a good guest, Stephen was all over, I want to talk. And then we get a guest when I just need somebody else to talk to Stephen.
He's a little crippled cunt. No, sorry. I didn't mean to say
Why don't we still have affidavit secrets growing across there? Now, I agree with you. First of all, if he's trying to hide his bias to say, well, the left only likes the Constitution when it suits them. I mean, come on. Let's be honest here. At least admit that you're a hardcore Trumper. Admit that. But whether that aside, the idea of due process, he didn't agree with me that if you take away due process to one group, you're taking away due process completely, because then they can just say you're part of that group, whatever that group happens to be, and they don't have to prove a damn thing.
Right, and that's what judges have been saying. Matter of fact, the judge just said that yesterday. Yeah, district judge yesterday just said that. It's like if you remove that,
my jokes.
No, well, they didn't say it as a joke. They said it as part of their decision.
Wow, I did not know that, but I'm glad to see I'm ahead of the curve on something.
That as opposed to hitting your head on the curb, which is what you usually do.
This is true.
And so, yeah. But he and I are not going to jive because his premises, even his well-intentioned thoughts, like compassionate police, come from a very convoluted and biased place.
I know this is hard for me to believe that the right wing is, because the right wing, as far as I know, celebrates the idea of putting them in the squad car and banging their head on the roof of the car.
Right.
That's the right wing I know. When he's saying the right wing is behind this compassionate policing stuff, it kind of doesn't ring true with me as far as what I can see. I mean,
and I wanted to bring that up because I did read the thing about his book, Compassionate Officer Hansen, Compassion in Blue. I mean, I grew up. I mean, as a matter of fact, a lot of the kids in the city my age grew up with Officer Friendly, which was their outreach to inner city neighborhoods, saying police are good, police are kind, you can trust us. And they had the whole Officer Friendly thing. But as soon as we got outside of the school, Officer Friendly was no. The only way he was friendly was that he was going to take a fribble and beat your ass, beat your head until it turned into a fribble. Yeah,
it's a friendly beating.
Yeah, he beat you until your head turned into a fribble. That's as close as they got.
I grew up with Officer Dibble. You know Officer Dibble? No, yeah, not a lot of cops in my. You know what? We did know one. Our Julio car 107 was because the guy was also he was a local cop, but he was also a hall monitor in the school. So he was like, we abused him during school hours, and then he became the cop, and then he wanted to fuck with us after school. So I kind of give him cutting some slack. Now I don't know if I'm cutting some slack. Do you cut him some slack from being from California, where
yeah, because there's a lot of bureaucratic shit in California still, but a lot of that was started under Republican administrations. The Democrats just didn't change it,
right?
So yeah, I agree. That there's too much bureaucracy, but California has been cutting back on it as well. They've been trying to get rid of some of the bureaucracy.
I don't know.
Still going.
I just feel like California is a very conflicted place, and there's a lot going on there. Probably should be 3 states, but I'm not sure that would be good for the for electoral college purposes.
No, we should get rid of the electoral college first, and then make California 3 states.
Is that ever going to happen?
Get rid of the electoral college. I'm still hopeful.
Don't you? Because this is weird. I would think, and I don't have any data to back this up, but I do have like social media impressions that both the left and the right would love to. Trump, when in 2016, he was talking about, because he thought he was going to lose the electoral college, was talking about doing away with it. So the right was supporting it then. I don't know if they still support it, but the left, after losing a couple of elections because of it, want to get rid of it. I think there's enough support in America to get rid of it, but we aren't that kind of.
Right? But the funny thing is, I grew up. I mean, when I was in middle school, I'm sorry, we didn't have middle school. We had junior high. I didn't learn about middle school until I got into the county.
Right,
but in the city, we had junior high.
We're the same age, 104.
Yeah. So in junior high school, I was, didn't like the electoral college. There was one of those things that's, like I stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance in the 3rd grade because I had a friend who was an atheist, and they were like, I don't believe in God, so I'm not going to do this. And so they wouldn't stand up, and people started to pick on him. So I just, in solidarity, said, well, I'm going to stand with him and not stand. I'm going to stand with my atheist friend and not stand. So we're not going to do the Pledge of Allegiance together. And it's the same thing and then once I learned about, because we used to have elections, student government elections in school. And that's how I learned about the electoral college. And then it's like, wait a second, you mean if we had an electoral college, we just had these votes and they wouldn't have mattered? And they're like, well, kind of. And I said, well, fuck that. I don't like that. I don't like that electoral. So again, it's out of selfish reasons that I didn't like the electoral college. Just like I didn't like the Vietnam War, but not because I knew anybody that had died. They were taking my best friends from the football team. Soldiers when they should be quarterbacks back home.
I was kind of expecting you to go Willie, and in a good way, go Willie on Captain Kirk there and say, I don't know if you know anything about the law. I was kind of hoping you were going to do that, because if there was ever a time for like aggressive pushback, I think that would have been it. I mean, and
I thought I pushed back kindly.
Yeah, but you didn't go full Willie on him. That's what
I don't. That's not my nature. It's not my nature.
Yeah, I have once or twice. I think you.
Well, if I'm being disrespected, then yeah, I will kind of lose my shit.
He did call you my friend at one point.
Yeah, that's the polite way of like bless your heart.
Yeah. And now somebody was talking about black friends, and he said, "You got one black friend." I was like, "Who?" the guy on your show. I was like, "You think we hang?" Well, I've spent probably about maybe an hour in GD's presence in my entire life. Like, and going back to my Imus thing, people were under the impression, because Imus used to, and this is a ripoff. Imus used to start his show by saying Charles McCord was his best friend of the last 37 years, and people hear me saying that about you, but they never hung out. I mean, occasional phone calls and stuff, but they weren't best friends. And Charles McCord later in life said, "We were never fucking friends." I don't know what people, but so people hear me saying that about you, my best friend for 37 years. They think we like break bread every night. Like I'm over here, I'm driving to Maryland just to hang out and watch the game with you or something.
Yeah, and if we could even find a game, actually we probably wouldn't watch a game together. We probably both, if you came all the way down here, we'd actually have to smoke a joint, even though I'm not like much of a smoker.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
When I went Puspatuk the other day, I got a shot of the white weed, but I didn't buy the white weed because it was way too fucking expensive. They have it on the exotic shelf, and I think it's $99 an eighth. It's like,
now,
fuck that.
will tariffs affect the weed, or is that all homegrown?
I don't know. That's a good question. But the white weed,
Yeah, I thought you'd have known. I thought you'd have known that like 112 days ago.
well, the white weed is not even. It's not even like it's encrusted. It's like it's not real weed. I mean, it starts with real weed, but by the time it gets white, it's certainly not. It's covered in like all sorts of Molly.
Powdered sugar, frosted.
Yeah.
It's the frosted flakes of weed. It starts off as cornflakes.
If Puspatuk is charging $99 an eighth, you can guarantee that in like a regular dispensary, it's $200 an eighth. Like what the? This is no cool. I don't need that. Anyway, I'm gonna be going down there and doing some interviews with those people for Weed World. Weed World. Subscribe to my Weed World channel. You'll find it on YouTube. Weed World. I don't have any content there yet, just a couple of videos, but
I will have to subscribe to Weed World. Now, is it is it under Weed World, or if I do like another Napo thing?
I think it is at Weed World, but it might have like a 420 behind dash 420 because I think Weed World as a profile was already taken when I created the channel the other day. On my way to Puspatuk, I turned on my radio. I just had an inkling. I'll turn on the radio, listen to some music on the drive down to Puspatuk. And I turned on my radio, and it comes on to AM talk radio. Ironically, the station that we were on, WRIV in Riverhead for a half an hour. But I'm thinking my wife set this station. I would never have this fucking station on. And there's two obvious Trumpers gabbing along. It's talk radio, right-wing talk radio. And this guy saying that because they were talking about Joe Biden on The View, mentioning white nationalism. White nationalism doesn't exist. And racism doesn't really exist. It's all a made-up thing by the libtards and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? You guys have sent us into a fucking bubble. And then they're going on to celebrate everything Trump did, including the deal with the UK, where a 10% tariff became a 10% tariff. Big leap there.
10% I was so impressed when he did that. When the 10%, yeah.
The only good thing for the working man is there's going to be 0% on Rolls Royce because the working man is definitely buying a lot of Rolls Royces.
And that's because my car is almost paid off. Now, when I say almost, I got 3 years left on it. So
you're going to get a Rolls?
I am thinking, but I'm seriously. I wasn't going to get a Rolls. I was like, no way could we afford it. But now that I know there's no tariff on it, my wife and I are seriously looking at getting a Rolls Royce to replace my Hyundai.
And are you going to get a white chauffeur to drive?
Well, I have a white wife. I'll just let her drive.
And you sit in the back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Not in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, I still have to drive while she's in the back. But as soon as we get out of my neighborhood,
but when you get the Rolls, get a Rolls, that will be exponentially exaggerated. Yeah, that was the point I was making. Rolls Royce. I mean,
I had to get in method. I think if you're black and you have a white wife and you get a Rolls Royce, it comes with a little black chauffeur's hat. I think. Yeah. I could be wrong. I have to read the manual.
So anyway, on the way to Puspatuk, I called these guys because it's a call-in show, and I said, "You guys are so out of your friggin' minds with this idea that there's no such thing as white nationalism." Let me give you an example. There was a woman who called a 5-year-old boy a nigger. Hard word. Get out of here, you nigger. You don't belong here. She got in trouble by her neighbors, or neighbors were not happy with her, and she felt like pressure to leave. I gotta move out of my neighborhood. And she started a GoFundMe, and people gave her $500,000 just to celebrate her right to say, "Get out of here, you 5-year-old boy, you nigger. Get out of here. You don't belong here." Now, you have to put yourself in the place of that little boy who's just thinking, I don't
belong. How much money
here.
did that little boy get?
Yeah, how much and the wound that has to happen to his psyche now. You don't belong here. That is definitely white privilege, white supremacy, whatever. You don't belong here. You're not. And so that little kid it's bad enough to do that to an adult, but to a 5-year-old boy. But the fact is, that aside, you can take one person. That's not a systemic or a national problem. But when you have people, and none of the donations were more than $50, so she got $500,000. That is people hero worshiping her. Not only white supremacy, but the fact that she buried this 5-year-old boy for the rest of his life. His psyche is going to be scarred with that, and you don't see that as an indication that white nationalism exists.
And forget the fact that some of Trump's cabinet people are openly professing to be white nationalists,
right?
Like Marguerite Taylor Greene,
right?
Openly,
and so they come along with and Matt Walsh saying, "Don't you see why I want to protect my race?" I mean, there's one race; it's a human race. Let's get clear on that.
Okay, no, I beg to differ. There's 3 races. There's the human race, the Indy 500, and then there's NASCAR.
You left out the Kentucky Derby.
I mean, Formula One.
The Kentucky Derby.
No, Formula One. There's Formula One, NASCAR, and human. Those are the 3 races. That's it. And I like Formula One better than NASCAR.
Wow.
Because of the racism.
So no, the Kentucky Derby isn't really an official race. It's a hat, or what?
It's not even no. That's not a race. That's more like matter of fact, I can't even. I think that is what's highfalutin animal cruelty.
Right. Anyway,
Albert Bramante did reach out to me. When I reached out to him, he reached out to me. Now this is what I don't get. I sent an email to him, directly to him, to his email account from my email account. He hits reply and it goes to my junk mail. Okay. Yeah. And so I didn't check my junk mail for his reply because all he did was hit reply. It should come right back to me.
Right.
But it went to junk mail, and I get so much junk mail that if I don't check it every day, it gets buried. And his shit was so far down. I'm like, oh, because I replied again. I sent another email. So he responded. He says, like, I responded to the first one. And I'm like,
no offense with the language meant here, but whitelisting and blacklisting used to be a thing where you actually had to manually do it. But Gmail is supposed to automatically whitelist people that you've already corresponded with, knowing that
that's what I was expecting. I was expecting it to whitelist it, and it went to the junk mail. And so I once I finally found that, I moved it to my inbox so that my computer knows it's friendly. And now I'm still waiting for him to get back to me because I just said, can we just do this over the phone? Yeah. The schedule, because well, first of all, I need to talk to him anyway, but do it over the phone because I can't trust my computer to send his emails to my inbox.
Fucking A.
I did profusely apologize to him, saying I went to my junk mail, and as many times I tell people to check their junk mail, which I did, but I checked it only because before I delete every couple of days I go through my junk mail folder and I read everything, to see where it's from, just in case something goes there by accident. But I don't have a lot that goes there. Most of it comes to my inbox or promotions or updates, But
so tomorrow I'm not going to be here. It's you and Steven.
Right, so I will have to look up the what's her face. Now I will not be able to put us on Rumble or Instagram because they want me to cut and paste.
Right, we're not on Rumble today. There was a problem with connection, and I undid it. Listen, fuck Rumble. I want to give them a couple of days off and see if they're still telling me we got 900 viewers. We weren't even on there. How the fuck did we get 900 viewers? I thought I set it up last night, but Rumble I can set up. Instagram will be impossible because you have to kind of go in. That's
you have to do a cut and paste thing. It says the cut and paste, blah 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 blah.
Cut and paste and go back and forth, and then go back there to start the live on Instagram while the intro's playing and all that stuff. But the second guy, and I will send you what he sent me about the pronunciation, the phonetic pronunciation of his name. But Elizabeth Siebold, her line in the calendar was, if you want, I asked for a little bit of bio information. She said, if you want to know more about me, you can go to my TikTok and YouTube. That sounds like a little bit of an attitude already. Wait a minute. If you want to know more about me, I want to know anything about you. I mean, I know you've been in the chat room. Steven said you're very funny. That's all I know.
Now, I did do something, just so you know, for yesterday, because how difficult it is for me to be watching and controlling and all the other shit at the same time. I did make a Church of Last Resort outro video to use.
Did you upload it to the system, or are you using it
yeah,
in that little?
Yeah, and it's right with it's right above my disclaimer.
All right. I will see if I can. I'm going to do my best to start the show from a phone on my way down to the painting class I have to do tomorrow. But I will be in transit. I don't. This whole getting up really early.
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to share this with you. This happened yesterday. When the Reverend when the Reverend ended, he did this. He played this to go out. And now that whole thing is like a minute, but he wound it down. After like 30 seconds or so. But he doesn't wound it down and fade out. But he plays that, and then he hits end stream. And while that's playing, he starts to get undressed, and then he hits end stream, and it doesn't stop the stream right away, but it ended the video so that people watch.
Yeah, this is the thing. It used to time out, like as soon as you hit end stream, it gave you like 3 seconds. Now it's like 15 seconds. But so you have to remember the minute you start that intro video to take yourself off the stage, so it'll go to the background or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I just occurred to me that they moved my thing back to, I think it's an 11 o'clock start, so I'm pretty sure I will be able to. It's about an hour and a half drive. I probably should be able to start the show from home. Anyway,
So he didn't know, and I didn't know to tell him not to get undressed. I mean, he wasn't naked. His shirt, he'd taken his collar off and his glasses off, and his shirt was open down to his navel.
Oh,
yeah.
Reminds me of the Potathon when Jamie fell asleep. Jamie Dykes fell asleep, and he was snoring. And Carl said to him, "Please don't start masturbating." That would be good. Anyway, just briefly before we end this, they're standing in front of a promo for a June 14th show. Jamie Schreiner, she's going to be on the show this week. Jamie Schreiner, she's booked for, I think, Thursday.
Yes. This show is produced by Slaptail Nation. And so I told John that I would put the flyer up behind me to promote his show.
Look at that. The worlds are coming together. GD's World with Slaptail Nation with Coffee at the Door. It's all coming together into one big comedy stew.
Yeah, and he said that he reached out to Jamie, gave her the information so that she could book herself onto the show.
I hope she got the email. Maybe I should go on her Facebook or wherever and just ask her to check all her folders. That was a good catch.
Yeah, because it's like I said, because I get shit sent to my not just junk, but promotions, updates.
Yeah,
and I don't trust. I don't know what to trust anymore.
Can't trust anything.
No,
but by the same token, if you book something and you haven't gotten the email about what, get in touch with the host and say, "Hey, I didn't get."
I mean, that's what I did with Albert. When I didn't hear back from him, I said, "Okay, there's other ways of reaching out to him." So I went through his website. And I went to contact him through the website, although it's for like people who like want to book and make an appointment. I just said, I don't want to make an appointment, blah, blah, blah. This is why I'm reaching you. I did this. And then there was another, I reached out to him through another website. Same thing, and then I kept checking my folders, and it was when I was checking my junk folder that I found it, but I found him like 30 emails in. It's like if I'd given up, because when I go to check my folders, it shows me 50 at a time.
Yeah.
If it only showed me 20 at a time, I probably wouldn't have seen it because he was like number 35.
If I tell Steven to check his junk, he looks in his underwear.
So if you teach that, there's no point in looking.
Like what? First
he lifts his stomach and then he checks it out.
Now, I didn't know he's surrounded by Amish. Maybe that's what the influence is with him. He's starting to look like the people he surrounds himself with.
Well, I teased him that he's not. Those aren't real Amish people. That's why he made a point of saying Pennsylvania Dutch, because that's what we have. We have the original. We have the OG Amish,
the real ones. Yeah,
yeah.
The ones you run over.
Right. The one. Yes, we have the OG Amish, the ones that leave horse shit on the road.
All right, we'll wrap this thing up. Have a good night, and I'll probably briefly see you really quick in the morning so I could start the show and then get on the road to go paint. Have a great day. All right?
All right.
Don't forget to turn on your radio, by the way.
I
me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now.